3, 2, 1, boom. You can tell a lot about a man whether or not he's one of those dudes that has one of them wallet phone cases. Rashad Evans, you're a wallet phone case guy. You pack it all into one package.
You know what? I wasn't always a wallet phone case guy. It's kind of something that just, I kind of evolved into. I was one that was carrying around the
man purse?
The man purse for a while, and after a while, I kind of transitioned to just the wallet case.
That's a lot of work, though. Look how thick that sucker is.
It's like a Costanza.
Look at that thing.
I know. And
that
here's the thing.
thing's giant.
Every single time I clean it out, I tell myself I'm not going to put any more cards in there except for the ones I need. But it just attracts the cards.
Yeah, that's a problem. I have one of those Ridge wallets. You know what those are?
Yeah.
Those are the shit because you can't really get much in there. I get like a credit card or 2 and my license. And that's it.
See, that's what I need. I need to have that discipline where there's nothing else to carry but what I have to carry.
And it's got a little money clip on it, so I'll shove a couple bills in there, and that's it.
That's it.
I go out like that.
That's what I need.
That's what you need. Front pocket. All this nonsense. That's so thick.
It's thick.
You might as well go back to the man purse.
But you know what?
You might as well get a backpack or a fanny pack. I'll send you one of these. I just sent 2 to Stipe Miocic.
Those look all right, though.
Pretty dope, right?
Yeah, it is pretty
That's
dope.
my own company makes. Well, we don't make them. We buy them from Roots. And we put our stamp on it. Yeah, leather, right? You want one? I got one for you.
Yeah, I do want one.
All right. Yeah, you're a bold man. You can wear a fanny pack.
Yeah,
You're Rashad Evans.
You know what? I was rocking the man purse before anybody else was wearing it.
Really?
I mean, out in America, out in Europe, they were doing it a long time ago. But in America, I was like I was a trailblazer, I like to say, at least among my friends.
It is a weird thing, right? Like, guys are not supposed to wear bags, but women have, like, fucking all these different brands of bags they carry around, Fendi and Gucci and this and that, and it makes you look like you're special because you got some fancy bag.
And carrying a bag actually helped me be more prepared than ever because, I mean, I would always be one of those dudes can't carry enough stuff, and I'll always become things wishing I had things that I didn't have, and I'm like, you know what? The bag worked.
But why is it that we're afraid to carry a bag? Like, a guy can carry a backpack. Backpack's fine. I guess you got shit to do. You got a backpack. You're fucking serious. All right? It's got 2 straps.
Right.
But one strap, like, man, what's wrong with you?
I think it's because you have to do the feminine hold at times with the one strap, and that can.
But dudes do over the shoulder, so you don't have to do that. Then you're like, it's a satchel.
Then it's manly. Then it's manly.
Very strange, right? How a bag became manly or not manly based on the amount of straps.
It's a thin line.
Yeah, and then for women, it's like a status symbol. Like what kind of bag they're carrying around. Nobody gives a fuck what kind of backpack you have, right?
Right.
If a dude has a nice backpack, no one's like, bro, where'd you get that backpack?
But I mean, you got a nice
fanny pack.
Sort
of, not really. It doesn't get the respect it deserves. Fanny pack.
It sticks out. The people are like, okay, he's got enough balls to carry a fanny pack.
Yes, there's a little bit of that. A little bit of I don't give a fuck.
I seen the fanny pack carried where it's across the shoulder. That looks kind of cool.
Weak people. Scared.
You don't think it's got?
No, they're scared to rock a real fanny pack.
Like with the waist.
They're cowards. They're cowards. They're fashion cowards. They don't want anybody calling them out on wearing a fanny pack. So no, it's a shoulder bag. It's not a shoulder bag, bitch.
You have to wear it
It's
right
a
in
fat
front.
man's fanny pack. You're wearing it over your shoulders. That's what it is. They're wearing it in a way you're not supposed to wear it. It's like if you wore a backpack around your waist. Like people would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" It's not a backpack. It's wrapped around your waist. What are you doing?
You think that carrying it here, you have everything you want, like right here.
What about right here, man? You don't even have to lift your hands up. You go like that. They're right in there.
Yeah. You know what? I guess I'm just trying to. I guess I'm trying to just wear say it how I think I would wear that one, but you're kind of convincing me, Joe, that maybe the front carry might be it's
the way to go. The only issue is girls won't fuck you. Some girls, like you wear a fanny pack, that's it.
See, I'm married anyway,
Beautiful.
So I'm good now.
Perfect.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
Every married man, like myself, should have a fucking fanny pack.
It's a deterrent. Pussy deterrent.
It's a little bit of that, but it's also fuck you. That's what it says. Fuck you.
I
keep it on my
shit.
stuff. Right there. Keep my shit right there.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, keep it together. And then you also have this crazy green drink that you were telling me about.
Yeah. So this right here is Spirulina. Ever since I changed my diet up, I need to have a couple of these every single day. and it makes me feel good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't eat meat anymore, so I know you're a big meat eater.
Yeah.
So.
Do you eat fish or any of that?
No.
Nothing. All vegan.
All vegan.
When did you become vegan?
Probably about I want to say probably about almost 2 years now.
Really?
Yeah, almost 2 years now.
Like it?
I love it.
Really?
Love it. It's changed my life, man. It's been one of the things I can honestly say that's just revolutionized my complete everything. It's been everything that's lately that has changed me from a mental standpoint, physical standpoint, and even a spiritual standpoint.
I definitely think it changes the mind, because this all meat diet that I've been on, that changes your mind the other way. It makes you more aggressive. Yeah, too much so. Yeah, I have to work out extra to keep the demons at bay.
It's the blood.
It is. It's that. It's also like, if you think about it, if your body thinks, okay, I have to eat animals all the time because all this motherfucker eats is animals, right?
Right.
If your body thinks that, your body's going to sort of take on the characteristics of something that's a predator, right? You would become more, I mean, this is obviously like some bullshit bro psychology because I'm a moron, but I would say your body is going to think, I'm more aggressive. I have to chase shit down and kill it.
Yeah.
Right? That's you have to be more predatory. But your body has to think that way.
I can get with that. It makes sense, though. It makes sense.
Did you do it right after you retired?
I kind of, not right after I retired. It was kind of something that, that kind of just happened. Like ever since cause I do mushrooms, right? Yeah. So it was when I did when I had a really, really deep trip that just caused me to have one of those ego deaths. And when I had the ego death, I was like in a state where this knowingness was coming to me, and it was like, I was like, it was all day. I did a mushroom ceremony, and it was all day, and I was just out in the sun and just, in my own mind. And then I was smelling real bad, and then I smelled myself. And ever you catch a smell of yourself, and I was like, oh my God, I stink. And then the knowingness said, like, you stink because you eat dead, rotting flesh. And it said, if you want life, then you eat life. That's what this knowingness said to me. And then I was like, that's a strange thought to just come into my mind like that. And then after that, no kidding, like I just lost my taste for meat. And I used to eat all kinds of meat. I would eat pork, and I was, big into pork and big into like all kinds of meat. And I was never one of those diet guys at all. But after that happened to me, after I had that experience, it was just like one of those things that that I just couldn't help but go into. Like I just lost the taste for meat.
One trip.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of started when I like about 8 months before that, I did the toad. And then the toad was one that really was the catalyst for everything.
There's a lot of people listening going, what the fuck is he saying? You did the toad?
Yeah. So 5-MeO-DMT, which is the toad. And the toad was one that was, I guess, the catalyst of busting that gate open. And
that's a crazy psychedelic. That's a very underrated psychedelic.
Oh my God, that will.
Yeah,
man.
That's the first really. I had done mushrooms before, but I did a fairly small dose. I mean, fairly small in that I could walk around. I was pretty whacked out, but I could walk around like a couple grams. But the 5-MeO-DMT was the first one where I just ceased to exist. I just stopped, and it made me really aware of ego, really aware of like even the way I express myself, the way I would frame sentences and say things. I was trying to sound cool, or I was trying to portray something in a way, like not just trying to portray the information, but trying to impress people, and it made me like feel real gross. Yeah,
well, that's the thing. Like when I had my 5-MeO experience, it was man, I just never. I never thought that consciousness could be so vast and so big. When you have that experience with the 5-MeO, it just like it made this consciousness look as if like it was a drop in a bucket. Just like a little drop, and I got to experience the ocean of consciousness. And that right there was the most humbling experience I ever had. Just to feel my ego, who I thought I was, what I thought I was, completely just annihilated and to feel what I actually was. You know, it was crazy.
Yeah, I feel like regular consciousness that most of us exist in most of the time is a veneer. It's a very thin veneer.
Yeah.
And through some things, you get a taste of what's under the surface through meditation and yoga and all these different methods that people use, holotropic breathing. You get a taste of what's underneath the surface. Kundalini yoga, apparently. I've never really done it, but some people say you could really trip out if you do it in a certain way for long periods of time. People have like very intense psychedelic experiences akin to DMT.
Yeah, I had like a Kundalini kind of experience, like a no awakening, where it was like as I just had, felt like the top of my head just completely was gone, and it was like I was just open to all like the information. It was like I had no head. Like it was just information was just pouring into,
like no roof. Was this from Kundalini?
No, it was from mushrooms, but it was from
a similar type.
But I felt that that Kundalini experience where you see the light.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like this really intense light that happens in my head, and it was just boom. You see the universe. You know.
Well, you know that thing about the center of your head. That's what there's a lot of speculation on what the Egyptians were trying to draw when they were drawing certain images, but there's certain temples that seem to mimic certain shapes in these temples that seem to mimic the pineal gland. Like even the eye, there's that famous Egyptian eye that has that sort of dip down, that weird sort of Egyptian shape. There's been a bunch of different scholars that have tried to figure out what exactly that meant, and one of the theories is that that's a cross section of the pineal gland, and they think that what they were emphasizing was that is the area where the brain produces all the psychedelic chemicals. And they speculated this for a long time, but Dr. Rick Strassman, he's the guy that wrote that book, DMT, The Spirit Molecule, and there was actually a documentary on it that I hosted. And he's done a bunch of work with this Cottonwood Research Foundation where they've shown now that it exists in live rats, and that it is actually produced by that gland, that DMT is actually produced in these animals by this one particular gland that they associated with spiritual awakening with the third eye. So it actually is a real thing, that feeling that you get. And the thing about mushrooms that's really interesting is mushrooms actually mimic natural human neurochemistry. There's 5-MeO-DMT, there's N-N-DMT, and then what mushrooms, what it's processed to, the way it your body processes it becomes something called 4-phosphorylloxy N-N-dimethyltryptamine. So it's all real close. I might have butchered that technical description, but it's real close to human neurochemistry. So your body absorbs it very easily. Your body takes it in. Your body knows what it is. Your body knows what to do with it.
See, when I was I like mushrooms because the mushrooms. So the 5-MeO is so powerful that you can't really get a handle on what happened. Like I came back from being away for like 17 minutes. I'm just like, whoa, that was intense. You know, I felt as if like I was everything all at the same time, and it was, you know, so many different things that was just happening, but you really can't unpack it because it's incomprehensible to an extent, for the larger extent, because you're dealing with, you know, concepts that the human mind can't even grasp because there's no vocabulary to speak about it, you know.
Right.
So when I did the mushrooms were kind of like the rivers and the lakes that leads to the ocean, and it helps me understand how I am part of something so big and something so grand. So when I had my mushroom experiences, they were all different in some respect, you know, like whenever I do go deep, because I like to go deep. I don't play around with like
microdosing.
I mean, I do microdosing sometimes, but I like to get in there with like 5 grams, maybe, you know, 10. You
That's
know,
how you know
big,
what's up.
Yeah, those big ones, the big doses where you get kind of scared.
Once you ate it, and then you know you got like 40 minutes before it kicks in. You're like, oh boy, there's no turning back now.
There's no turning back now. But that's the thing about it. When you face that fear of just going deep, and it's helped me out so much because, towards the end of my career, like I didn't finish the way I wanted to, and I felt like, after I came back from my injuries, I just wasn't the same fighter anymore. I just
were you not the same physically, or was it mentally?
It was physical, but it became mental because physically I just didn't feel the same. I didn't feel like I ever regained the power back in my legs, and for the most part, my legs were everything.
What were the injuries?
I had 2 ACL surgeries on my right knee, and that completely just it changed everything for me because being a smaller light heavyweight, all of my power was all in my legs, and whatever I couldn't make up for in the size department up top, I was usually able to make up for with the power in my legs,
Is that related to the injury that you got when you were at Jackson's and Diego Sanchez crashed into you?
No, that was a different injury. So that was a MCL, but it was on my left knee. So the right knee was the one who got...
That always drove me crazy because I'm like, why the fuck is a guy training for a world title fight in a regular class where everybody knows people collide into people with regular classes all the time with millions of dollars on the line?
Crazy, I know.
I see that all the time though in top gyms.
But that's where the training has gone. Like before we would train like maniacs. We would train crazy as hell and put ourselves in some crazy situations. And you try to put yourself in those situations because you like. I did it before and I've done it so many times and nothing has happened. But when you start to move up and there's more on the line, then you always have to take every single precaution because you can't afford to take a step back.
Right.
And for me, once I had my knee injuries, though, I just mentally was not the same person. And when I competed, I wasn't the same person. And then it affected me because then I'm like, I'm not the same person.
Did you lose the ability to explode with your knees? Did you have meniscus damage as well?
I had meniscus damage. I lost the ability to explode, and I lost. It would get tired. My leg would get tired, and it didn't have the same bounce, the same rhythm, and it kind of felt heavy, and I couldn't really feel it in the front. The front part of my knee, I couldn't really feel it. I had a little.
Did you have a Patellar tendon graft?
I had a Patellar tendon graft.
So they cut the front open, and then they take the piece of the bone. They take a slice of the Patellar tendon and a piece of the bone on the bottom, and then they replace your ACL with that.
Correct.
Yeah, I did that too. It takes a long time to get that feeling back.
Yeah.
It took me more than a year before it felt right. And then even then, if I was on my knees, it would hurt like hell.
See, and that's the thing. Like I still, to this day, I still have dead spots where I can't feel in my knee.
Right, it's numb in the front.
Yeah, it's numb. And I think it had to do it a lot because I had 2 of the knee surgeries back to back. Like when I was only healing up from my first one, then it ruptured again. So then I had to go back in and get it done. The first time it was with the cadaver, and then the cadaver tissue didn't take, but I didn't know that until like almost a year later, and then it slipped out just training normally.
Fuck.
Yeah, so
ACLs are brutal.
Oh my gosh, it's the worst, man. It's the worst, and I admire guys who can come back and look phenomenal and do it, still, because when you mess up your knee, for me, it just kind of mentally it messed me up a bit.
How much physical rehab did you have to do for that?
Man, I did a lot. I did years worth of it. Just, the first time I didn't do it as well as I could have because I'm like, I'll bounce back pretty easy. And I did. Like, I felt like I was bouncing back pretty easy. But when it went the second time, then it was harder because not only was I healing from the ACL, but then my knee was healing in general just from, the previous surgery and then plus this surgery. And then I had something different because in the first surgery, it wasn't too invasive because I wasn't using my own tissue. But
that cadaver one is nice. It's easy.
It's easy if it works, if your body takes it.
How long did it take before it blew out again?
Man, I was almost a year. I was training for another fight, thinking I could get back in shape and fight again. And then when I was training for that fight, it blew out again. Yeah, I was scheduled to fight Gustafsson, and then AJ ended up taking that fight instead. But it was it was one that just, it was like, first of all, when I was out for 2 years healing from injury, I got to see what it was like to when all the cameras stopped flashing, when people stopped caring to get your pictures, when, that whole feeling that happens when you hit that transitional point and stop becoming that guy. And it was difficult transition at first because, even though I always told myself I would never, put myself in the mindset of being just that fighter, sooner or later you become just that fighter, and that's what happened to me. So when I had to,
meaning that you weren't the best.
well, not just the best,
That you weren't elite.
right? Yeah, I just
World
wasn't.
class.
I wasn't elite world class fighter like I used to be. I wasn't
Right.
on that level anymore,
Right.
and that was something for me that was just like, God damn,
Well, your use of your legs was so pivotal. It was so
Yeah.
huge for you. Like when in that Rampage fight, I remember that opening sequence when you just darted after him and blasted him with the right hand. It was so fast. Like
Yeah.
he didn't even know what the fuck was happening. As soon as the bell rang, you were on him and you cracked him quick. And I was like, that is some serious explosion.
And that was even in that fight. I couldn't even wrestle like the last 4 weeks of that fight because I had I pulled my hamstring in that fight, so I was just drilling up until that fight for the last 4 weeks.
Oof.
So, and when I came out like that, I was a little insecure, and I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna see what would happen if I go, and then it worked. I was like, okay, I still got some spring. But
It worked perfect.
yeah. So so when I was into my career and just kind of getting, kind of trying to figure out like what's next for me, it was hard, it was just a hard place because, I didn't really have anybody to talk to. I didn't really know what I was going to do next in my life, And then when I started fighting again, I still was in that place where I just wasn't, totally back to fighting, my mentality, because fighting is something mentally that it takes a certain mentality for, and for me, fighting was something that I did to exercise some demons a bit, but having some time away from the sport, it allowed me to figure out other ways to exercise those demons and, figure out some things around them, the things that made me mad, the things that were my fuel before. I kind of made peace with them. And in making peace with a lot of the things that I was using for my fuel, it just changed the way I fought and the way I seen fighting. So coming back to fight, I just wasn't that same fighter anymore. And then when I got to the point where I was like, man, I can't keep myself, like I was like, man, I'm not fighting the way I want to fight. And, what's the point? If I can't go and compete the way I want to, I'm only torturing myself. So then I decided to retire. But then when I retired, I still was in that space where I was like, man, there's still something missing. So then when I did the 5-MeO DMT, that kind of put things in perspective in a whole different way, and it just it changed me. It changed me a lot. It changed the way that, like I said, the way I think, the way I eat, everything about it, So it was so cathartic in so many sense of the word,
Do you think that something like that would be really beneficial for fighters that are in the twilight of their career?
I think it could be. I think every fighter gets to a point where you fight enough, then fighting you kind of get in a weird space about it. And I've seen fighters go through that period where they just kind of like figuring out like why am I still doing this? They've had great moments inside the cage, but then they have those down moments, and those down moments are the moments where it's harder to come back from. And I think those are the times where a psychedelic or something like that could put things in perspective and allow the fighter to see the why behind the reason they're doing it and maybe create a new why.
Yeah. You're so different. It's funny. I've noticed that about you over the last few years of just, I don't get to see you that often. And when I get to see you over the last few years, I'm like, wow, something has changed in Rashad. Like you're more, I hate to use the word spiritual, but you seem like a more spiritual, more peaceful guy. I had noticed that. So that's why I was really interested to have this conversation, see what your journey was.
Yeah, it's been one hell of a journey, man. I teamed up with some people in Denver. One of my good friends, Del Jolly, out in Denver. He's the one who told me about the medicine, the toad medicine, and after that, we just kind of continue to always link up, and we do a bunch of ceremonies together. We do ayahuasca, and just make sure we always have that connection. But it was through working with him, I became part of this group, Unlimited Sciences. And Unlimited Sciences, what we're doing is, we've been able to we want to make psilocybin usage, because Del Jolly was one of the guys who was on the committee who got it approved for Denver, decriminalizing. He was one of the guys who made that possible.
Do you know how it works? So are you allowed to possess a certain amount of psilocybin in Denver? Is that how it works?
I'm not really too sure exactly how it all works with that, but I think that they're still working out the details about how it's going to be, which you can possess on the legal side. But with Unlimited Sciences, we've been able to we want to take the psilocybin experience where it's one that people can go through for healing and help and get consistent information, consistent data on the full spectrum on how you can use it in the ways it's used. So we've teamed up, and this has never been done before. We teamed up with Johns Hopkins University, and we're going to be part of their study, and we're going to do like the first real world study where we go out and take information from people. People from 18 and up who can speak English can sign up for our study. And what you do is you go and you fill out a questionnaire, and everything is HIPAA protected, so no one has to worry about getting in trouble for what their usage of psilocybin. But Johns Hopkins is taking all this information, and we're collecting it for them. And what we want to do is we want to be able to give this back to them so that they can see on which way they want to direct their clinical research. And what that can do is, with Unlimited Sciences, it comes from this group called Realm of Caring, and Realm of Caring is out in Denver, and Realm of Caring was for medical refugees during the whole when there was medical refugees for cannabis who couldn't use it in their state came to Denver where they were able to use it. But when they first came there wasn't any information on how much to use, because Heather Jackson and this other girl who started it, named Ms. Page, they started the Realm of Caring, and it was just them. They were treating their child and their children. They had seizures and epilepsy and stuff like that. So they tried everything in the medical field to help them, but they could not help them with that. So then they went to cannabis, and there was only 2 of them doing it, so they didn't really have much information to go back from. So then they would share information amongst each other, and then they would ask other people. And then through networking, they created this huge community of people with data, and then they started to come with more and more data, and then they started working with Johns Hopkins University and made a protocol and everything else. Now the Realm of Caring helped thousands of families all over the world just with the information and data that they've been able to collect.
That's awesome. Johns Hopkins has been involved in psilocybin research for a while, right? They had some thing that they did on near-death patients, or people that are close to death, and alleviating the fear of passing. Yeah,
and that's one thing that they're very interested in diving into that, the mind aspect and everything. And I think that the real world study would be good, because what it does is it allows them to put their money and their resources into where people are actually using it and the things that are interesting to the people, So, I mean, it's one thing to have it in a clinical setting, but it's another thing to do it on your own and be able to get the results from it. So hopefully this study with Johns Hopkins University, it definitely changes games and puts things on a level where people can get the healing they need from the mushrooms.
Have you read any McKenna stuff?
A little bit. I follow McKenna a bit, I listen to him quite a bit.
Yeah, fascinating guy. Weird voice, right?
Weird voice, but
hypnotic almost.
Yeah, you can't. I listen to hours of McKenna, and just his understanding and breakdown of mushrooms is crazy.
I'm friends with his brother, and his brother is another genius, really fascinating character who's also an outspoken psychedelic proponent, and he lives up in British Columbia now. And he's a big proponent of one of Terrence had a theory that Dennis subscribes to called the Stoned Ape Theory. Do you know this theory? Yeah. And this is a really controversial theory, but fascinating, that they believe that, at least Terrence had this idea that one of the catalysts for human evolution that changed us from lower primates to human beings was the consumption of psilocybin, and that animals, these pre-human primates would flip over cow patties and experiment by eating grubs and bugs and things they'd find in there, and they would also eat the mushrooms that would grow on the cow patties. And the doubling of the human brain size over a period of 2 million years is this gigantic mystery. Like, they have no idea what happened. I mean, apparently, according to biologists, it's the biggest mystery in the fossil record, that the human brain doubled. And not just that any organ would double in size over a period of 2 million years, but that the organ responsible for the theory of evolution in the first place doubled over 2 million years is really interesting.
Yeah.
But it coincides with climate change and coincides with these rainforests, and this is all Terrence's work, I'm repeating. It coincides with these rainforests receding into grasslands, and then these ungulates, these cow-like animals that would live on these grasslands and eat the cow and take shits. And then the manure would grow, or the psilocybin rather would grow in the manure, and they would follow these cows around and then eat their mushrooms that would grow in their manure. And it also coincides with the earliest civilizations would all worship cattle. Like Choctaw Hyuk, which is one of the earliest known civilizations. They had there was a real cattle worshipping sort of, I don't want to say a cult, but the way their culture would operate, they worship cattle. And some would say, well, that's because they ate them and they used their milk. I'm sure that had something to do with it. But like the Hindus don't even eat them. They just worship them. Imagine that. You got 1 billion people living in a place, everyone's starving, and they're not eating the cows. They're not eating the most delicious animal on the planet. Well, it's because they grew mushrooms. And the ancient Hindu scripts, like Soma, is one of the main sacraments that they would talk about. No one really understood. To this day, they're not exactly sure what Soma is, but it's some sort of a psychedelic sacrament, and it probably was a combination of many things, but a big one was most likely psilocybin was a part of that. And that sort of corresponded with their relationship with cows. That they had this worship of cattle, they wouldn't eat them. And the reason is because God came out of their butt. In their eyes, they would make the manure. The mushrooms would grow in the manure. And I mean, there's all sorts of mushroom iconography in all of their ancient religious artwork. And
I mean, I think mushrooms, I know mushrooms have played a big part in our society.
Yeah.
I mean, in our civilization, in our ancient civilization.
For sure.
And I don't think it's been, properly covered the way that it could be. But
right.
It's amazing because the minute you eat a mushroom at the right dosage, you feel it. You feel the fact that it's like, oh, this is something ancient, because there's something that happens when you go to that place where you lose the self. Mm. When you lose the self, then there's something that happens that's just magical. There really is no way to explain it or dress it up with words. It's just something magical that happens once you reach that level. Yeah,
whenever I have these conversations with people, there's two types of people. There's people like you that have had the experiences that go, mm-hmm. And then there's people that have no experience in it at all that look you like, yeah, it's mushrooms. But I feel bad for those people.
I do too.
Because I know how I used to think, and I would have dismissed it the same way. I would have said, this is the foolish notions of frivolous spiritual people that are just being ridiculous, and they think, oh, it's all about the mushrooms, man. Yeah. But it is. It is. If you do it, you'll realize, like, oh, well, if you do any real potent breakthrough psychedelic, any real breakthrough psychedelic experience is going to make you humble. It's going to make you realize, like, oh, there's more to this than everyday consciousness.
Yeah.
There's more to this experience, this existence. There's something way bigger, and you only can tap into it through a variety of different methods, whether it's, name your psychedelic or name your trance-like state that people can go into. There's a lot of different ways to tap into it, but once you do, you realize, like, this is not this little thin thing that we're touching right now. This is not everything.
Right. And that's the thing about it. It really just cuts through the whole materialism of everything.
Yeah.
And it really shows that materialism is just a product of consciousness, and sometimes we tend to think that, our consciousness is a product of the materialism, but at the end of the day, consciousness is everything. And
mm-hmm.
and when I did my Toad experience, I almost felt as if, like, I'm not really here, and I'm really somewhere else, just projecting my consciousness to here. And it seemed as if like when I smoked the toad, the venom severed that connection, and the connection wasn't able to come here on earth, and I was just really where I really am. That's what it felt like. And then when I came back to my body, I remember feeling like I didn't want to come back. And I actually it was saying like, please don't go when I came back.
Wow. I felt like I dissolved and I became a part of everything. I felt like I always tend to think of life as like my own view of experience. It's right here, right? My life is right here. Right now it's in this room. Later on it'll be at the Comedy Store. There's places I go. My life is where those places are. But when I had my first 5-MeO DMT experience, it felt like, no. It's all together. You're in the middle of this infinite soup of life. And there's no one spot.
Right.
That spot is your imagination.
Yeah.
It's like the limitations of your biology that we have kept from the time that we were small little mammals to the time that we were lower primates to the time that we're human beings. The biological instincts to survive and to preserve our DNA and to carry that DNA on, all of those instincts are the reason why we're here, but also so limiting. Right. Because they keep your consciousness bottled up in the location that you're at. It keeps your feeling of life contained to wherever you're at that moment, and staying safe, and then keeping people paying attention to you, and making sure you got the coolest shit, and all the things that seem so silly when you trip.
Yeah, absolutely. When I fall away, and the feeling of falling away and not being who I think I am, it is almost the most freeing feeling, but at the same time, it's one of the scariest.
Yeah,
it's one of the scariest at the same time, but it's necessary, and it's necessary in order to reach a certain point of understanding. You know, when you reach a certain point of understanding of going inside, then you don't need a guru. You don't need anyone to drop insight or knowledge, because all the knowledge and insight, it's there if you go deep enough and you know how to go deep enough, you know, and you understand the fact that, you know, there's just this knowingness, and it's hard to explain. Like, it sounds crazy to say, but there's just this knowingness out there, and you can tap into it.
Yeah, there's something out there for sure. What's interesting to me is some people have a way better grasp of the English language, and they're way better at describing things. They're way better at sort of putting trips into perspective, because everyone sucks at it. Even the best people suck at it. I'm terrible at it. I've described it the same way you described it. There's not really words for it. You know, you do your best, but it's so poor. Like your just the ability that words have to convey the experience. There's no words that are correct. They don't even get in the neighborhood. They wrap around it. They try.
And even in a state, I remember being in a state where I was on one of my deepest trips, and I'm in the trip, and my friend looks over at me, and then I wave him over because I want to tell him the secret that I found about consciousness and about existence, but I couldn't tell him because the knowingness is telling me if I tell him, then I'm not going to be able to come back and live. You know, I had to go. I had to leave this earth. That's what it was telling me. So I remember just sitting there, just like, man, I want to be able to tell him and be able to convey to him in words what I'm feeling. The only thing that came out of my mouth was, just go sit over there. It'll come to you. Because that's what happened to me. Like, I was I was in his yard, and I just went and walked. And as I was walking, this knowingness told me, like, I was walking barefoot in this grass, and I kept getting my feet poked. And the knowingness told me, it was like, you know, it told me the path to walk. And it said, the reason why I'm stepping on these getting pricked is because I'm stepping on live grass, stepping on the dead spots where there's no. And it just came to me just that clear. And I just started doing it, and I wasn't getting pricked by any grass no more. Then it told me to sit down, and then I sat down, and then I just had like the most profound just realizations just hit me. Like it was coming out of the sun. it sounds crazy to say. I was outside and I went and I was looking at the sun, and it was like the sun transitioned to something else. It just became very deep, and it had layers of. It was very, very trippy. But during that experience, I remember looking around and seeing everyone that I was with, and laughing to myself, saying like, they would not believe this, but I'm actually every single one of them. And that was like a thought that I remember thinking and feeling like I'm feeling myself right now, and it bugged me out. I know it's deep. It's so deep, man.
Do you still train?
All the time, yeah. I train all the time.
You train all the time?
Yeah.
Do you feel different, like even when you're hitting things?
Yeah, but not in a way like I feel like, oh man, I feel bad. I don't feel like that. I just feel like ever since I was able to kind of come back after this whole transition happened, I feel like I have a better idea on competing now. Like as far as like my mindset for competing is better than it was before, just because I don't my ego's not so attached to it as it was, and I'm able to go out and just give my best in whatever it is, and completely just be like, it's whatever. And it's easy to say now that I'm not competing where it counts for anything. But for me before, even in practice, it felt like something. If I lost in practice, then it would stick with me for a couple of days. I'll be upset about that. But now I can just go in and just train, and and it doesn't stay with me like it would before.
Do you feel like, though, that to be an elite fighter, maybe you need that burning desire to the point where mistakes burn and they hurt? And I know as a comedian, I mean, there's a parallel there, like where if I'm really working hard, I'm really concentrating hard, anything I say that is stupid or comes off wrong, or I try something that doesn't work, it will fuck with me for days, just all day long. Even in conversation, I'm having fun with some friends and I say something stupid like that. It'll sit in my head for a day. I'll wake up in the middle of the night to piss, going, "Why the fuck did you say that?" It's the worst.
No, you do need that as an athlete, but at the same time,
particularly as a fighter, right?
Yeah,
because you have to. I mean, it's so the difference between a champion, is about it more than anybody. Between a champion and a good fighter is so close. It's so close.
It's so close. It is.
And sometimes it's that fucking fire, that anger, that fear, that drive inside of you to be elite, to be the best. And sometimes that comes with every practice you have to win, everything you have to do, every fucking training session. You have to burn it out. If you don't, you feel like you're less than you could be.
Yeah, I agree with that. But there's also the other side of that too, where there's that blissful ignorance. And that blissful ignorance is where you just go out and do something and you do it 100% great all the time, just because you enjoy it, and there's not the pressure of, oh, I have to do it a certain kind of way. Like for instance, when John Jones was first competing, John Jones, he competed so freely because it was just like it was just in his nature. Like he was just so creative, and he fought different because of, he fought from that place of just creativity, that ignorance, that ignorant bliss. He couldn't be beat. He didn't believe he can be beat. And, he would fight that way, and he would do some genius stuff in there just because of that, But then when you have those experiences where you've been caught in a fight, or you made some mistakes in there, then you do know better. But then those thoughts, it actually slows you down a bit too, because you're not fully reacting. You're thinking a hair, where before it was just kind of like a reaction.
Yeah, I talk about his opening fight, the opening sequence of his fight with Shogun. I mean, he's 23 years old. He's fighting for the world title, and he opens up with a flying knee.
Right?
Who the fuck does that?
That was that dumb and young. You know what I'm saying? That's the best way to say it. But at the same time, that blissful ignorance, that was his blueprint for so long. And he's turned it into a whole fighting style. Just that, letting it off, hang out, letting it fly. And that's what worried me that's why I thought in this fight with Dominic Reyes, it was going to be a closer fight because of the fact that Dominic Reyes now had that, what John used to have, being that blissful ignorance. He didn't really know how much, how better John was, or didn't even care. He was just kind of like, oh, I can win. You know what I'm saying? He was so confident in himself, almost in an ignorant, blissful way, but it worked out for him,
Well, what's interesting about that fight is, first of all, it's a great argument for 5-round championship fights because for the first 3 rounds, Dominic Reyes was winning.
Yeah.
The question is whether he won the 3rd round. That's the one I believe that's up for grabs. Most people that I've talked to think John won the last 2 clearly. Most people that I talk to that are experts, most people, few disagree, believe that Dominic Reyes won the first 3. And the 3rd round is the one that seems to be, you could go, well, Dominic scored more, but it was close enough where you could see someone giving it to John, particularly since John was pressing the action. John was pushing forward. Maybe you give it to John, but they thought Dominic won it. But they said if there's a disputable round, it is that 3rd round.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
One fucking judge gave John 4 rounds to 1. That's insane.
Yeah,
this is the same judge that when I believe Luke Thomas was talking about this. I'm sorry if I'm wrong. So I'm not saying the judge's name because I'm not sure if I'm correct, but I believe it's the same judge that Trevin Giles, who fought James Krause. Giles and Krause was an amazing fight. Giles wound up winning the decision, but the first round, Krause had his back for 4 minutes, and the judge gave that round to Giles, which is insane. I mean, for 4 minutes, Krause had his back. The guy was fighting off chokes. Krause was real close to submitting him a couple times during those 4 minutes. And the same judge who gave 4 rounds to John Jones, gave that first round to Giles, where there was a dude on his back for 4 fucking minutes. Most of the round. And maybe even a fucking more egregious fight was Andre Yule versus Jonathan Martinez. That fight was fucking crazy. That fight was crazy. That was the most crazy one. Martinez won that fight. Won that fight. Yule broke his arm, I think. So I'm not sure if it's a broken arm, but he had a significant injury to his right hand early in the fight. Somewhere in between either the first or the second round, not sure, but he really couldn't throw a right hand, and it was kind of hanging. You could kind of see it was hanging. And Martinez put in work. It was an amazing performance by him, and he got fucked over, man, real bad. It was bad decision-making. There was a bunch of bad fights. There was a bunch of bad decisions. It wasn't just one. There was like 4 or 5 on a card of, 12 fights, 11, 12 fights. I forget how many it was from the opening prelims. There was bad decisions. Just almost like people who don't know what they're seeing.
Yeah, and that's crazy too, especially when we reach the point that we have in mixed martial arts. I think that we've turned the corner in that, meaning the fact that there's so much out there, so much knowledge out there in the sport and everything else like that. And if you're going to be judging it, you got to at least know when somebody is winning a round. I mean, there's aspects of John's game that was, scored some points. He was always moving forward with the action. But, even when he was moving forward with the action, he wasn't terribly too offensive. He would come with his legs, but, a lot of times he would allow Dominic to kind of be the first one to initiate it and then moving off. And sometimes it seemed like he was just kind of chasing him. But, I think that it was that 3rd round. That 3rd round was that hard round to score. But I think that Dom had the edge, but if you're gonna beat the champ, then you got to beat the champ, and I don't think he did that. John Jones impressed me so much with the shots that he was able to take, but more or less the mindset that John had. That mindset that John had in those championship rounds, to me, that showed that this guy is. He is a total package, and when it comes to fighting, just mentally speaking, he's somebody who I thought that was frustrated and working through his own frustration in the fight. Is difficult, and he didn't succumb to his own frustration, and he just kept that pressure going and took some big shots from a heavy hitter. But Dominic Reyes is a problem for anybody.
He's a problem. He's a real problem, especially now that he's got that rub. He touched greatness with John, who's the greatest ever. I feel like those last 2 rounds should count more. This is my personal opinion. But John Kavanaugh said something on his Twitter page. I believe it was John Kavanaugh, and it reflects exactly how I feel. That if this fight was going to go on another 5 rounds, it's pretty fucking clear to me who's going to win. This is to the death. John Jones is going to win that fight. Yeah. You know, if it's to the death, there's no doubt about it in my mind that John Jones is eventually going to get him. Yeah. Those last 2 rounds, Dominic Reyes was hurting. You could see him looking and taking big, deep breaths and trying to move, and his arms were labored, and John just kept pressing, kept kicking him, kept punching him, kept trying for the takedown. And that should mean more. It should mean more towards the end of the fight. At the end of the fight, if you win a decision, but you just got your ass kicked for the last 4 minutes, that seems crazy to me that you won the fight. Yeah. Because, I mean, I know this is a dumb way to think about it, but if we were in a schoolyard, right? We were in high school, and some dude and another dude fought. The dude who's getting the shit beat out of him at the end of the fight is the guy who lost. Right. When the teachers come and they pull you off that guy, that's who won. That's who won a fight. That's who won. And I know that you can't score a professional sport the way you look, but it is the rarest of rare professional sports because it's the sport of fighting. Right. And in fighting, when you're getting your ass kicked, you're supposed to lose. If you're getting your ass kicked, you lost. Yeah. And if you're kicking the guy's ass, you win. Sounds crazy, but at the end of that fight, John Jones was kicking Dominic Reyes' ass. He was chasing him down. Dominic was taking some big deep breaths. He was firing back. I mean, he fired back very well in the 4th round, but John absorbed. John has a fucking hell of a chin too. Oh my god. Hell of a chin. Oh my gosh. A hell of a chin. I mean, you can't. He's something special because of everything. It's not. He's something special because of his physical attributes. He's very tall and long. He's very strong. It's not just his skill. He's got great wrestling. He's got great striking. It is his mind too. Yeah, it's all those things. It's his ability to press forward, its ability to break people, its ability to stay on top of you, have that champion's mindset, and to know that he's fought the majority of his career as a world champion, which is fucking crazy. I know. I mean, almost a decade as the greatest in the world, chasing everybody that he's fought, every single fighter that he's fought. You look at them, they're all guys like you, guys like Machida, world champions, Rampage, world champions, over and over and over again. You go through the list of them. Just all these killers. There's just killer after killer. Gustafsson, I mean, you just keep going through his entire career. DC twice. Stopped him in the 2nd fight. He's a fucking assassin.
And the most impressive thing about it for me is the fact that, on a physical scale, he's phenomenal. But just mentally speaking, to be able to go through everything that he's gone through, the ups and downs, and what that does to your mind. Yes. What that does to your mind, and just being able to put that to a side or be able to use it in order to go out and still perform as if like he hasn't missed a beat. Yeah. That is hard because it gets to the point, you get with anything in life, you get tired of the monotony of it. You get jaded by it, and he hasn't been jaded by it, and he still goes out there and performs like that. That's impressive.
I think he needed someone like Dominic to get that fear going too. I think he knew Dominic Reyes physically is a talented guy. Yeah. He's a great athlete. He has tremendous footwork. His ability to change angles and then fire back is insane. I know. It's so good. You saw it in the OSP fight where he knocked him out with like a couple seconds to go. You see it in a lot. His Jared Cannonier fight, he could step back and fire uppercut, step back and fire that straight left. His ability to change direction is amazing, and I think a lot of that could be attributed to his football, baseball, like footwork, movement, his ability to explode, all that stuff that he did in other sports, I think directly translates to his ability to move really well inside the octagon. And then on top of it, he's gigantic. He's the same size as John, which is very unusual for John to face someone that's his height. And he's really fucking strong too.
That was the intangible that I think that John didn't expect. He didn't expect for him to be as strong as he was.
When he's able to get back up every time, like, when he
get up like he wasn't even on him. Like, dang.
His legs are fucking huge. You look at Reyes' legs.
Oh, huge.
Yeah, huge. I mean, he's got tremendous power. I I mean, both with his punches, but also with his ability to move, man. He was throwing great kicks. He was chopping at John's legs. I mean, out of any fight in John's future, I want to see a rematch. I really want to see what Dominic Reyes looks like now with this rub, understanding how close he was, and then the amount of conditioning that he's going to have to put himself through to be able to do that again, 5 rounds. And it's not like either guy got fucked up in that fight where they're going to be severely damaged. It's not like one of those crazy wars where, like, Adesanya, Kelvin Gastelum. At the end of that fight, I was like, oh my God, I hope Kelvin takes some time off after that one. That was chaos, just wildness. It wasn't like that. It was a grueling, difficult, hard fight, but it wasn't a fight where there was so much damage that both John and Dominic needed to take a long time off. I feel like you could make that fight in 8 months.
Absolutely.
And that would be the fight to make. That's a crazy rematch.
And the thing about it was, surprisingly to see, like their faces weren't beat up at all, and I'm like, these dudes were landing some shots on each other, and their faces not even.
Yes.
Like, I thought for sure John's lip would be all swollen like it was when he fought Gustafson.
Yeah.
But he took those shots well, man.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. But I think that this is exactly what John needed in that light heavyweight weight class, because it was getting kind of stagnant, and I think it needed some time to mature. But I think Dominic Reyes just said, yo, you better stay here for a little bit. And there's another guy, Corey Anderson.
Oh, yes.
Corey Anderson is somebody. Listen,
that's the dark horse. I've been telling everybody.
Listen, that's the dark horse.
The way he knocked out Johnny Walker.
Yes.
And he's angry.
He's angry.
And
that's something you've never seen Corey.
Yes.
You've never seen that before.
After that fight, he was like letting everybody know, you fuckers been slipping.
Yeah.
You've been sleeping on me. You guys have been pretending that I don't exist. I'm out here beating the best in the world.
If he fights John Jones, I think that's when John better be like, all right,
he better be so ready. Yeah, Corey's he doesn't have a chip. He's got logs on his shoulder.
I know.
Corey, he's angry.
He's pissed. He's pissed off.
After that Johnny Walker fight, he was so out of character. He's screaming and yelling and fucking, he was angry after he won. He knocked him out in the first round, and then he's mad.
The years of disrespect, though,
yes.
and that's how he trained. Though he always trained with that mindset, like, oh, they don't respect me. And that's why he works so hard.
Yes, his endurance is insane. His pace is insane.
Yeah, training alongside those guys in Jersey was probably one of the best experiences of my career. Training with Mark Henry was mind blowing.
You were telling me about this. You and I had this long conversation about that. Tell me what it's like to work with that guy.
Mark Henry is a genius. What he does is he breaks down the game like no one ever trained with before. So for every combination that we throw, every punch is all accounted for with a code, and that code is specific to you. And to what's important in your life and the way you value. So he sits and he talks to you about, your family and whatnot, and then, he'll make these codes up. And these codes would just be like, for a combination of let's say jab, cross, hook, then he'll say that's Nia, that's my daughter's name. And then he'll make a whole system of codes with just names. And then when you're sparring, he'll call off the name. And you just got to know what that technique goes to.
Wow.
There's a bunch of different techniques for different colors, for different movement. And, he just says it. And it's like when I watch him go with Frankie, because Frankie has the system down the best. It's like he's controlling Frankie like a game. And he's just saying
like an Xbox controller.
He's just saying these commands, and Frankie hears them, and then he goes off. And sometimes, like, if I'm going and I don't see it, he'll say something, I don't see it, I'll like nod it off, and then he'll say another one. But if he says it, then most of the time I just do it because he sees it. And,
right. That's crazy to have that kind of confidence in another person.
That's the part of the training that you learn. And then, you kind of, the good side to that is that it makes it easier. But when you're just out there fighting, sometimes it can be difficult if you are too dependent on it, and you just kind of lose the ability to create yourself, But for the most part, he does such a good job of breaking it down that it's pretty easy. But it is a very technical system to learn, And anybody who gets a chance to work with Mark Henry, I suggest you do it because. And here's another thing: Mark Henry is one of those guys. Like I stayed at his house when I first went and stayed with him, and he doesn't sleep. Like he'll stay up to like 2-3 o'clock in the morning watching film, and then he'll go to sleep for a couple hours, and he'll wake up at like 7 in the morning to go do his for his pizza shop because he owns a pizza shop, and he has this crazy work schedule, but he loves fighting.
It's so weird that a guy runs a successful pizza business and he's also one of the best trainers in the world.
Yes.
It's so strange.
And he makes a killing with his pizza shop. He kills it.
I heard his basement gym is amazing.
Oh, it is amazing. His basement gym is where all the magic happens, man. He has all the codes written out, and he'll torture you in that basement. He'll torture you. He'll get your mindset like sharp as hell, but he'll torture you in that basement, you know. And
well, it's such a diverse group of fighters, right? Zabit comes down there, Marlon Moraes. He had so many interesting guys, Edson Barboza, so many interesting guys had gone through that gym.
It's so crazy. Like when I first like I was standing there, and I got to train with Zabit a little bit, and got to live with Zabit and the Dagestan fighters. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty cool experience because you kind of get to know their culture and just kind of just get a different respect for it, you know. And those guys are just hard workers. Those Dagestani guys, they're so hard. They work hard. They pray hard. They just are very, very focused individuals, and you watch them, you're like, oh, okay, you know. Even now, I'm like, you know what? Maybe I need to get a little bit more serious about my thing, you know. But
that's where the success comes from.
That's it.
Think about how many great fighters come out of that region. I mean, it's extraordinary.
Yeah, and these guys are phenomenal. Like I watch them after training, and these guys do this like it's like a randori type of sparring afterwards. And they just do like jumping off the walls, all these kind of like these acrobatic crazy moves that you don't think will ever work, and you see them like, oh my God, where do you get that from? They practice it all the time, and they just do all these kind of crazy moves at the end of training. And
at the end of training,
like
so like they're done with all the real work. Let's just fuck around and see if we get creative.
Yeah, they get creative, and they just start just doing all kinds of stuff, and they throw real moves in there, but they drill everything. And Zabit. That dude is probably like one of the best guys I ever seen in training, just like martial arts wise. This guy, he jumps off the cage and do all kinds of acrobats and come down doing all kinds of ground acrobats, and he just makes it look so effortless and easy. It's crazy.
He is really good. He's really good with his mixture of traditional martial arts techniques, you know, because he has that kung fu background. Yeah. So he throws a lot of like round kicks and spinning kicks and all that kind of crazy shit. But then he'll hit you with like some judo shit, a lot of tosses and trips.
Yeah.
And he's got great submissions too. I mean, he's got great wrestling. He's got great boxing. I mean, he's a weird combination of a bunch of different styles.
And he's tall too. Mm-hmm. The tall length is really is something that helps him out too, because Frankie Edgar, whenever he goes with him, he's like, man, I feel like I can get him down, but then I look down and then his feet are still touching the ground. I swear I have him up. And his feet are still touching.
He's so tall for 145.
He's so tall for 145.
I'll tell you what, though, he had a hard time in his last fight with Calvin Kattar. That dude is fucking dangerous.
Well, Cater's a dog, though.
He's a dog.
He's a dog.
He's the dark horse at 45, in my opinion, because he was beating Zabit in that last round. It was rough. Like, Zabit was trying to just get the fuck away from him, and he just stays on him. And I think he has the best boxing in that division. And he's also huge for 45.
Yes, he is.
You stand next to him, you're like, how the fuck are you weighing 145?
Yeah.
He looks like he's a 160.
Yeah.
He doesn't look anything like 145.
I know. It seemed like in that fight, Kattar kind of realized towards the end, like, wait a minute, I can beat this dude, you know?
Yeah.
And that happens sometimes. When you go against a guy who has like a bunch of different tricks, you find yourself putting yourself in his trick bag just by being aware of all the things that he can do. You find yourself like, oh, he's going to set that up. Oh, he's going to set that up. And by you being too watchful of what he's doing, you're shutting your own game down. And it seemed like Kattar just threw caution to the wind that third round. Was like, you know what? I'm going to just go out and just make it happen. And then when he did that, he found his opportunities.
I think also the first two rounds were really fast-paced, and I think in the third round, Kattar was the one who was in better condition. Yeah. He was the one who was pressing the pace in the third round, and he was also landing body shots, like some nasty body shots that were adding up. He's a fascinating guy, Calvin Kattar. I'm really interested to see him. He's fighting Jeremy Stephens next, which should be fucking chaos. because Jeremy Stephens is another savage.
Oh man, he's a savage. I love watching
He only
him fight.
fights one way, and that's, kill or be killed.
See, I feel like guys like that don't even need to win. They just need to go out there and just fight, because like his fighting is so good. You just want to see him go out there and just fight, man.
Yeah, well, he's had so many oh shit moments in his career. Like Dennis Bermudez, he hits him with that flying knee up against the cage. He Josh Emmett, the KO of Josh Emmett, he fucks people up, man.
He does,
and
man.
he's got ridiculous power too. And with Calvin's boxing and Jeremy's savagery, the two of them together, and Jeremy has ridiculous power. The two of them together, that's going to be amazing. And then they have Zabit. Zabit is now going to fight Ortega. Brian Ortega's comeback fight is going to be Zabit, and that's a tough fight to come back to. Ortega's been out, injured a bunch, hasn't fought since he lost to Max. He's had a bunch of real problematic injuries that he can't get over, and then finally he's healthy now. He's going through training, and tall order though to jump right back in the deep end of the pool with a guy like Zabit.
But you know what though? Like sometimes it is a tall order, but sometimes when you just came from a big fight, that's the kind of fight it's easier to get up for.
Mm-hmm.
Like if he just came from challenging for the title, right? It'd be hard for him to take too far of a step down in competition, because then it's gonna be hard to get himself up for it. But if he's taking a step kind of like in an upward motion, then it's like, okay, I can get up for this fight, and then he can train for it,
Yeah, because Zabit is, I don't know what the official ranking is. In my book, he's 2 or 3, right? He's right there. He's right at the top of the heap. In my book, I mean, there's Volkanovski, he's the champ. There's Max Holloway. They have to fight again.
They have to.
They're going to fight again. And then after that, it's basically Zabit and Cater.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. And then a bunch of other guys. Now that Aldo's down to 235, which is real interesting, because Aldo is going to fight Triple C. He's going to fight Cejudo.
That's interesting.
Yes,
that is interesting.
For the title.
That is interesting, because
very interesting.
I thought Aldo looked the best that he's looked in a long time at 135.
Yeah, he looked amazing.
He looked like a bit like the Aldo minus the kicks. He didn't minus the kicks.
I wonder why he doesn't throw so many kicks anymore.
I don't know, man.
Do you think he has injuries or something?
I think he might have an injury. I think he don't want to take a chance of
his
hurting,
knees.
hurting something and then having to fight through it. Fighting compromised.
But it's crazy because his kicks were just such a devastating weapon.
I mean, he'll only need like 2 or 3 of them, and just change the whole complexion of the fight.
One whack.
Oh my gosh.
Like when he fought Uriah.
Yeah.
Oh.
But imagine that power of leg kick to the lower calf, like how they. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, maybe it's a knee thing. Maybe he can't throw those kicks because his knees are fucked up. I don't know. I'd like to know, because that was one of his primary weapons. But still, even without that, I felt like he beat Moraes. I felt like that was a bad decision. But he's fighting Moraes, who's easily one of the best 35ers on earth. Moraes is so good, man. That left high switch kick that he has is a thing of beauty.
Yeah.
The way he whips it, it's like a whip. It's crazy. Like it's effortless. It just goes to your head.
Yeah, Marlon is pretty sick, man.
He's beautiful. Is this Aldo throwing some kicks? Oh, okay. So
4 days ago.
Oh,
okay.
It's practice, but
looks normal. Looks normal.
It looks normal.
I don't see any problems, except the sound's all fucked up.
But see, it's different though. It's different when you got to crack
Of
somebody's
course.
leg.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I think that I think honestly when it comes to the state of mixed martial arts, I think that once a lot of these fighters start to because we were speaking about it earlier, like we were in the dark ages when it came to training and that transition of how to become more professional with your training, and I think nowadays fighters are starting to understand that more, with the Performance Institute is helping to educate these fighters a lot more on what proper training should be and what it truly could encompass, and now there's more professionalism added to martial arts, but there's still an aspect that needs to be covering, and that's on the equipment side, like the equipment that the company that I work with, Onyx. Have you heard of Onyx before?
Yeah, I have a pair of the gloves.
Okay.
Excellent.
So, excellent.
Very, very good.
So we have a whole line, and the line that we have with Onyx, it's really the first MMA branded, like a MMA company that's made for all the way we move in MMA, everything that happens in MMA, because now the equipment that we use now, we borrow it from kickboxing or boxing. And there's that gap of just efficiency when it comes to manufacturing for a mixed martial art, because they with kickboxing, they don't have to worry about all the things that we have to worry about when it comes to mixed martial arts. So the equipment that Trevor has made is all with that in mind. You know, the gloves that we made. You tried the X Factor gloves.
Yeah, Trevor Whitman sent them to me.
Yeah.
So did he design them?
Yeah, so Trevor's a genius. So
he's another genius.
Oh my gosh, an absolute genius. So he started. So what happened is, when we would train, if anything happened to our equipment, we'd just give it to Trevor, and Trevor would go and he'll tweak it and he'll make some adjustments. So then Trevor's like, man, you know, he's like, man, the more he started to do that, the more he started to realize there's a huge gap. Like, the equipment that we're using is not efficient. You know, some gloves that should be, you know, 16 ounces are actually 11 ounces, you know, and there's no integrity when it comes to equipment. So Trevor did a lot of research, and he was like, man, there really hasn't been any improving on equipment since the thumb was put on the boxing glove, you know. And that's pretty much it. So Trevor went and he learned how to sew. He learned how to do everything, and he was in his basement just making this equipment. You know, he's made the X Factor glove you have.
Look at him
there.
there.
There you
Trevor
go.
Whitman sewing.
and he's good at, like, at first I didn't realize how in depth it was until I went to his basement and seen the little shop that he had. But it's pretty high tech. So we have the glove, the X Factor glove, but we have a knee brace, and we have a headgear too.
What's up with the knee brace?
Not the knee brace. It's the
knee sleeve.
It's like a knee. It's a shin guard, but it slides into a knee brace. You can slide. It's like a knee brace at the same time, as well as an ankle brace. It secures the whole leg pretty much. And it feels like you have nothing on, and you can kick with like anything, and it doesn't feel like it feels amazing. And he has a really, really thin headgear. And I want to show you these gloves. I brought some gloves to show you. So these gloves right here are what we're going to be doing for the competition gloves, the competition and the training gloves, the 7-ounce training gloves. So pretty much what these are. So this one is let's see here.
So has he developed a different glove for MMA for competition as well?
Yeah. So this
has the UFC seen these? Because they need to make some adjustments. Clearly.
Yeah, we're talking with the UFC, but these are So these are the ones.
They're curved. I like how it's curved.
So curved.
So it sets up that you're in a curved position
already
early on.
Because when you get the gloves now, they're like a cardboard.
They want to open your hand.
Yeah,
almost.
They always want to open your hands.
Yeah.
But this allows your hands to stay in a natural fist locked position, and you don't got to worry about that. Need some help getting it on?
Yeah, big hands. Oh yeah. Okay, so it's curved right away.
Yeah, curved right away. And then when you...
That's way better. Yeah, like the old Pride gloves.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good padding, too.
So it's...
I like them a lot. These are definitely better than the ones UFC's using right now, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
So it's, if you see the X strapping system in there, that also goes in there. So then that way it makes it so that your hand, you don't get the boxing break on your hand. It keeps everything, all the muscles, all the ligaments and bones in place. So that way when you're punching, everything is in form.
So it says grappling glove, fight glove.
Yes, a grappling glove and fight glove. So these ones were the ones at the factory, and I had to hurry up and get these out just so I wanted to show you these. So this one is going to be like the training one, but we're going to put a different head on the front of it.
What's going to be different about it?
It's going to be just the top is going to be different, a little bit more, so you can punch with, like, you can
hit it with the side.
Hit it with the side. It'd be a little bit like,
this has got some side padding.
Yeah, but
definitely better than nothing.
It'd be a side padding like this a little bit more,
Okay.
So it's going to be a bit bigger, so that way you can hit like that and train in.
Like casting punches like those. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I like these a lot.
Yeah, I mean, but Trevor's whole thing, man, it's all about making it so that fighters can do what they enjoy doing a lot longer and be healthy about it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And Trevor's a G when it comes to adjusting and making what he needs to for the fighter so they can continue to do what they want to do. He's made headgears for people because one of these fighters had a broken nose and he made a headgear. And the headgear that he made with this guy, it was sick.
How does this work? This is weird because it's like both sides are male.
Let's see here. Oh yeah, so this is let me see. It goes on the
inside.
Yeah, it goes on the inside.
How does that work?
Yeah, it goes on the inside. I gotta see.
Okay. Probably some weird shit you got to talk to Trevor about.
Let me see.
Or maybe it goes this way first. Oh, I bet that's exactly what it is. I bet it goes this way first.
Yeah, so you can put. Yeah, that's exactly how it goes, like that.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that is exactly what it is. It goes
so
like
that you can pull the strap on it.
Yeah, and then the strap goes over. Okay, I see. And the strap goes over the top. These are great, man. Well, there's definitely room for improvement. The current state of MMA gloves, like the ones the UFC uses, they're better than the original ones that they had a few years back. You know, they improved them maybe 8 or 9 years ago or whatever it was. But still, those are better.
Well, see, I mean, and that's where we are at Onyx. You know, we just want to be able to get a product out there for the athletes and that they can use, but it protects them because a lot of the injuries, like 75% of them, happen in training.
Sure.
You know, and if we can kind of cut that number down, then they can have a lot more of these fighters making these dates.
Yeah.
And for the most part, for these fighters, you can actually, you know, you can have gear that protects you. And you don't got to suffer these long injuries like these ACLs. And,
right.
And, you know, it helped mitigate some of those things, you know.
Well, you were a big part of the Black Zillions getting started.
Yeah.
And when you had that opportunity as a guy who was a former world champion to go there and sort of become a part of a team from the ground up, what did you try to do that was different than you had seen in other camps that you had participated in?
I wanted to make it just like a, you know, the biggest thing back then, it was that you always had to go to so many different places in order to just get that one thing. So I really wanted to just make it so that our guys didn't have a need to go anywhere else for anything else. And that was the whole idea behind the whole Black Zillions. You know, we brought in all kinds of people from every different aspect, from, you know, training to nutrition, almost every aspect of it. And that's what we wanted to provide our athletes with, just like the total game, so they really didn't have to do anything or worry about anything except for showing up to train. And it worked for a while. But it's a hard thing to maintain because that's in a very, very expensive thing, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Well, Glenn, the guy who put up the cash, I mean, I had heard some outlandish figures that he had was in the hole for that place by the time everything was up and running. Yeah. It was
it was a pretty hefty ticket, man. It was a pretty hefty ticket, and it was an expense that it did get out of hand. It did get out of hand. I'm
sure.
Yeah, here's the thing about it. Like even his situation, you know, he got himself in a situation where he was doing so much for people, it just became a thing that people expected out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he wasn't able to do it anymore, then it was kind of like, you know, people were like, "Oh man, this guy isn't this and he wasn't that." But
right.
he just wanted to do so much and had an idea to want to do things on another level, but at the same time, you know, the finances of doing it was a massive undertaking.
I'm sure. I mean, all credit to Dan Lambert, because Dan Lambert he's been doing this from the beginning.
Yeah.
That fucking guy. I mean, he is the reason why these super camps got started.
Yeah,
Dan Lambert put his own money, and then the new ATT he built himself from the ground up, built the whole fucking building. And, you know, I haven't seen it in person. I have friends that have gone to visit it, but I've seen it in videos, and it's holy shit.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. I went inside of it.
Dan's the man.
Yeah, Dan,
he really is.
Dan is a good guy, man. You know, after the whole thing with the Black Zillions, you know, him and I got to have a chance to spend some time together and just and just talk, you know.
Right. There was so much weird animosity.
It was weird.
And then the UFC put that show together.
Yeah, it's like I inherited beef with people that I didn't even know. I didn't even say hello to them. You know what I'm saying?
That's so crazy.
And I just inherited this beef, and I was like, you know, it's silly, and especially since the fact that ATT is like literally right down the street from my house. It would be closer to go there than anywhere else, but it was weird for a while. But actually talking to Dan and actually getting to know him, and you know, it was a good thing because you know, I got to get a lot of respect for him and just for what he's done with American Top Team and the ATT in general.
No, he's a brilliant guy. I love that guy as a person. I'm a big fan of his. I just love that a person like that, like Dan Lambert, can literally change the course of MMA by setting an example.
Yeah.
And by having a gym that sets an example that's such an insanely high level. So big, so many world-class fighters there, so much strength and conditioning, everything under one roof, dorms, everything.
Well, see, I think that was the thing that kind of, you know, that kind of pushed things in that position for Glenn, you know, because
he had to keep up.
He had to keep up, or he was trying to outdo.
Yes.
He was trying to do Dan Lambert. I always wanted to do something that Dan wasn't doing, you know.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, and that
it's a good way to go broke.
That's
man.
a good way to spend a lot of money. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. There's a lot of super camps out there now. It's interesting to see these places. You have TriStar in Montreal. You have Duke Rufus in Milwaukee. You have Jackson Winklejohn in Albuquerque. You got AKA. You know, it's when you first started, there was not that many places.
Nah, there really wasn't, and to even get what we wanted out of it, you know, there's 3 gyms that we can go through. We'll go to either Jackson's in Albuquerque, we'll go to TriStar in Montreal, or we'll go to Denver, and we'll work with Trevor Whitman in Denver. So we had the 3 camps that we bounce around from, and that's where we'll go to get the most work. And it worked for a while. You know, it worked for a while for the most part, but just all that traveling, it just became hard to do. But
that has to wear on you when you're in the middle of a camp and you're staying in hotels and
it does. Like when I was in camp, I really wouldn't travel too much. But like what we would do is that if Nate Marquardt was in camp and he wanted to stay at home most of the time, so we'll stagger it where, you know, he'll have a tough guy in camp every single time. So I'll be a couple weeks when George wasn't there or when Keith wasn't there, you know. And then sometimes we'll all come together. But for the most part, we'll just all rotate into these gyms depending on who was fighting and who needed the work.
He's a guy that I feel is underappreciated. Nate Marquardt, when he was at the very top of his game, was a fucking assassin.
Nate Marquardt was...
Ooh, that knockout of Tyron Woodley in Strikeforce to this day is one of the nastiest in-tight elbow combination knockouts I think I've ever, like a video game knockout.
Yeah, see,
crazy.
Nate Marquardt was one of those guys. I'm like, oh man, you'll get anxiety before training and practice because you knew it was going to be a hard go. Like my training growing up in the sport was just, it was difficult, man. You know, training with GSP, Keith Jardine, Nate Marquardt, Joey Villasenor, Mike Van Arsdale. And, you know, even Ali Abdelaziz was even up in the mix too. But it was, you know, it was training with guys who, like, it was a hard go all the time, you know. And Nate was one of those guys that I'm just like, oh my gosh, this dude is not going to get tired. You know what I'm saying? He's good everywhere. He's super strong. It was just like one of those like, all right, I got to bring it in order to compete today.
Yeah, he was in that. He had this weird transition between the UFC and Strikeforce where people kind of forgot about him. And then when he came back to the UFC, you know, he had some real good fights, but he had already had a really long career.
Yeah,
he had already had some really tough fights, and then really tough fights in training too, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like back then, we weren't really too smart. Like Greg would kill us in training. Like we'd do some shit that you'd be like, oh my gosh. Like one time, Greg had us doing like some buddy carries. We're on the side of the Sandia Mountains, and there's like, you know, it's like 2 or 3 feet, and you'll fall to like your death. And then we had to do like these buddy carries, these wedding carries, where I'm holding Keith like this.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah, and like this, you'll fall to your death. And like if you make a mistake, you know, there wasn't much room for mistake. If I would have fell down, then we would have fell. But we had to rotate every 60 steps.
Fuck that.
And Greg was always on the, like, you know, like mental, like, yo, you got to be ready to die. You got to be ready to face death. Let's get it. Seek death.
Meanwhile, he's such a sweetie in the corner.
I know, but
in the corner, he's, hey, how you doing, Rashad?
Oh my gosh,
things are looking great.
He'll take us. That's why he does it, because he knows what he did you in training.
I can't imagine that buddy carries or wedding carry like that, and you're literally, if you fall, you die. You both die.
Yeah, and then there was like one little slip, and he's like, all right, let's change things up. Go on his back, and I'm like,
what?
Yeah.
Fuck out of here, Greg. You go on his back, bitch. What are you doing? What are you talking about?
Yeah,
that's
man.
so crazy.
It was crazy, man. But that was a good time back
Just mental
then,
toughness training, huh?
Yeah, that was a mental toughness training.
Well, you guys, that Albuquerque team was always known for having crazy endurance. I mean, that had to come from, some of that grit had to come from those hill workouts you guys would do.
We had a lot of grit because of those workouts that we did. We did one where we do the sand dunes. It was the worst, man. You would cry like you had to carry somebody up doing the sand dunes. And then if you didn't carry them all the way up, then you had to do it again until you completed it. Like you would literally see grown ass men crying, just like, I can't do no more.
That's a good way to get injured too, though. Unfortunately,
yeah.
It's like there's this fine line between pushing really hard and fucking somebody up.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah, I think now they've kind of figured it out, but just the mental aspect, it paid off big dividends. Like, and I'll talk to Dana White, and Dana's like, bro, you were so fucking crazy back then. You were so paranoid. I'm like,
I like your Dana White impression. Yeah. You were paranoid back then?
I mean, I was a fighter, man. Fighters are always paranoid. You have to be paranoid if you're a fighter. You have to think that everybody's trying to take something from you, right? It's just a mindset. But he'll say I was crazy, I was paranoid because I didn't really trust him back then. But I'm just.
He's a promoter,
right? And then on top of that, you had Greg Jackson always telling you, like, that they want to get you out of there, man. They want to get you out the UFC, man. Go ahead and just quit, Evans. Just quit right now, man. I know you want to give up. They want to get you out of here anyways, man. Like, no, I ain't gonna quit. And show them you're not gonna quit. I don't want to see it. Let's go.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, it was a good time over there.
When
man.
you first started fighting, how much striking training had you done before you decided to compete in MMA? Because you had this wrestling base. Did you have any striking training growing up? Did you do any boxing?
I did some boxing.
Yeah.
And I did some karate too. I did Tang Sudo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I did Tang Sudo for like a few years from the time I was like 13 to like 16.
That makes sense because you always had good kicks.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that Sean Salmon knockout. Woo!
But I never utilized my kicks like I should have. And my mom will always be like every time, and Rashad, listen, she always would say something that Joe Rogan said. Rashad, Joe Rogan said, you need to pass the guard, Rashad. And I'm like, Mom, I don't even know what the guard is. So I need to pass the guard. Like, what? Oh my gosh,
that's hilarious.
When I fought Sean Salmon, she's the one who told me to Rashad, throw your kicks like Bruce Lee, Rashad. And then when I threw the kick and knocked him down, and the next day I talked to her on the phone. She said, Rashad, that was a good kick. And I was like, oh, okay. She said, but I don't like that dirty shit though. And I was like, Mom, what you talking about? Rashad, you knew he was knocked out. You ain't have to hit him again.
Oh wow!
And I'm like,
your mom said that.
Ma, you can't tell. You just got to keep going. Like the referee say, don't stop until I stop you. And I was just in the fight. And she said, but still, Rashad, shit.
That dirty shit. Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah.
I was kind of surprised that you weren't head kicking more people unconscious after that.
That's the thing, man. I needed to really, really step out of my game and make sure I stepped out of my game more and more often. But I just, after I switched things up and went from Jackson's to Florida, it was different because Mike Winklejohn, he was my guy. Like it was like me and Mike Winklejohn had a really good relationship, and he would work with me, and a lot of times we would work together. It was like it was like a counseling session. We would just talk about life. You know what I'm saying? In between stuff, we'd talk about everything, and it was a fun training session. You know. And that's when, you know, he'll instill in me all these different things. You know, he'll be like, oh, yeah, that kick is going to work. That kick is going to work. You know, even with the overhand right, when I caught Chuck Liddell, he was telling me, oh, yeah, that's the kick. That's the punch that's going to catch him. That's going to catch him. That when I caught Chuck the day before, I was hitting that move because I was super nervous, and I was hitting the overhand right and then left hook combination. And then you say, oh, yeah, that's going to be the punch. You know, you're going to hit him with that, and you're going to knock him out, and I'm not going to be able to get into the cage and congratulate you. That's what he said to me, word for word. And I'm just like, no way. And then it happened. I looked at him, I was like, oh, shit, it happened just like you said.
That was like a gunshot. I remember that shot. I remember you landed that shot, the smack of your fist hitting Chuck, and then seeing Chuck crumble. I was like, holy shit. Was that your most satisfying victory?
Yeah, I think so. It definitely was, just because, like, going into that fight, Joe, like the media sometimes can be so damn disrespectful. You know what I'm saying? Like, they were just kind of like, the questioning was like, you know, what have you even done to fight a guy like Chuck Liddell? Like, I mean,
people are asking you that?
Yeah, I mean, pretty much in so many words. Like, you know, what have I even done?
But you had already, at that point in time, had you fought for the title?
No,
that was before you fought for the title.
Before I fought for the title.
And it was the fight before, right?
The fight before, yeah. I only got a chance to fight for the title because I beat Chuck Liddell. Chuck Liddell was supposed to fight for the title. That I was a serve up to fight for the title.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a serve up.
Well, the media was a little sloppy back then.
Yeah, so
there's some really good guys out there now and gals that are covering MMA where they're real journalists. They really are like real sports journalists.
But back then it was like anybody with a camera who liked fights.
Well, there's also a lot of people that were trying to get attention just by being douchey.
Yeah.
There was a lot of douchey sports guy talk. I fucking hate that stuff. That was driving me crazy.
Yeah.
They'd be real disrespectful to fighters, real dismissive of fighters.
So going into the fight, I felt that disrespect, and I was like, you know what, man? All right, I'm like, I don't care what happens. I'm like, this, like, I gotta at least give a good showing for myself, you know. And that's all I really cared about doing. You know, I went out, I walked out to the song. Immortal Technique is called.
That's my boy.
Yeah, Immortal Technique.
I love that dude. He's my friend.
Man. Oh, yeah, he's cool, man.
I love him.
Yeah, I came out to the song Point of No Return. And that song just really solidified everything I was feeling at that moment. You know, like it. You know, there's a verse in there that says, you know, the place that I'm from doesn't exist anymore. And I knew after I walked out to that fight, you know, life would never be the same, whether I won or lost. So
that was the big moment.
That was the big moment. There was no. I was not going to be the same Rashad after that fight, no matter what happened.
Immortal Technique has such great lyrics, man.
Oh my gosh.
He's so smart.
So
smart dude, and so politically aware, and geopolitically aware. He's got so much depth to his lyrics. I love that dude.
Yeah, he's like one of those guys you listen to and you just kind of keep putting it back.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Did he
like,
just say?
Oh shit!
Did he just say that shit?
He's got a lot of oh shit lyrics.
Yeah,
like oh shit.
A lot of things that he says, you know, you go and you look it up afterwards. Like, okay, you know, he definitely had me looking up some things after I listened to him.
Dude, you won the Ultimate Fighter as a heavyweight, which is so crazy.
I know, because if you look at me now, I'm like,
what do you weigh now?
About fighter.
Yeah, what do you weigh now? What are you walking around?
I'm consisting like 200.
200 pounds.
200 pounds.
Wow.
200
yeah, that is like a 170 now in this day and age.
Yeah, 200 pounds. But I feel good though, man. I feel really, really good, and it's a level that I didn't expect to. I didn't expect to feel this good. I didn't think that a diet can make me feel this good.
What is particularly makes you feel so good? In what way?
My energy. I have an energy level that it's really hard to say. It kind of feels a bit supernatural in a bit, you know. Like I feel energy. Like I feel like my body's energy. It's kind of hard to say. It's kind of like not hard to say. It's kind of hard to describe without looking crazy. But
you're obviously, by following this vegan diet, I'm seeing all these supplements you're taking, spirulina and all these different things.
Yeah.
You're obviously doing it right. which is, there's a lot of people that they're vegan, but they're eating like pasta and pizza and shit like that. They're not doing it correctly in terms of taking in the proper amount of nutrients.
Right. And that's the thing about it. Like I read this book, The Mucusless Diet, and it's by Dr. Arnold Ehret. And this is like in the early 1900s. He came up with this book, and he had some stomach issues. And it was, not until he was fed up and was on like, he was starving himself. And then he realized he had some really, it kind of changes his stomach situation. So then he started looking into diet and nutrition. And then he became a fruitarian. And this book is talking about pretty much, the role of food in your body and what it does and what causes mucus and what doesn't cause mucus. And, through understanding the mucusless diet and just reading it, it just gave me a different hold on understanding, like a different understanding of why I'm doing this, and it became to me deeper than just like, oh, I can't have this because, the diet says I shouldn't have it. It says I can't have it because, this is going to cause inflammation. I know the deeper reason of why. So it's easier for me to avoid the pitfalls of bad food,
There's also a situation with people where there's biological variability where some people, some diets just sync up well for them. Like I know a lot of people that they don't feel good when they eat red meat. But when they eat fish, they feel great.
Yeah.
When they eat light foods, their body, whatever it is, their digestion favors certain type of diet.
Yeah, and that's what I found too, because I don't know if this will work for everybody. It probably won't work for everybody. I mean, it most likely won't work for everybody. But for me, it was something that my body just was like, it's about time you started to treat us the right way.
Interesting.
And the crazy part about it is the fact that now I train less, but I can train harder. Like now I can do sparring sessions where, like, I spar for like an hour straight.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm sparring at a pretty good pace. Like I'm not. Like it's smart sparring. Like we're not like bashing each other in the head and shit like that. We're being smart about it. We're doing, a little bit lighter to the head, but more heavy shots to the body. Making those ones count, and just kind of like touching. Giving a nice shot to the head, but not I'm gonna knock you out type shot to the head.
What type of foods are you eating? Like how are you? What is it? Like, give me a typical meal for you.
Typically speaking, it all depends on the time of the day, but I don't eat in the morning. I fast up until noon or until like 1 o'clock, and then my first meal. Are
you on like a 16-hour, 14-hour intermittent fast?
Like 16, intermittent fast, and then once I eat, I usually eat like I'll come home and I'll eat, maybe like a hearty shake that I make of fruit, and then I'll put some mushrooms and stuff in it, and just like the cordyceps, the lion's mane, and from this brand Life Cycle.
Sure.
You heard of Life Cycle with a K? So that brand right there makes this really good tincture that you just drop it in there. And you don't got to worry about changing the flavor of too much of your shake. So I drop that in there with my shakes and stuff like that. And I usually take that. That'll be my first meal. Then the second one would be a little bit more hearty. It'd be something with vegetables and maybe some potatoes or something. So it's a little bit more hearty. And then I'll have another hearty meal, like a vegetable-based meal at nighttime. And then I'll usually be done for the day.
Are you using any protein powders, pea protein, hemp protein, anything along those lines?
No, I don't use any
just
protein
vegetables,
powder.
Raw vegetables.
Yeah, just raw vegetables, vegetables and fruit.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I don't really feel like I have a need for it. Like I feel like my muscle mass is pretty good. Like I don't feel like I'm too skinny or like I'm not gaining any muscle. I feel like I can gain muscle, and it's just been working for me. And
so basically, you just eat to feel good, like however it makes you feel good.
Yeah, right.
And you've got it down now. Like what kind of foods. It's the supplement thing gets strange with vegans. There's a lot of folks that they're mixing a lot of different dietary yeasts and a lot of different powders and different things and blending these different things. And It's some people don't like the way that feels when you're eating like that, but it sounds like what you're eating is much more whole food based.
Yeah, mine is just whole food based. Like a lot of the foods that I became actually a good cook now because of the fact that I had to learn to cook my own food. My wife, she was busy becoming busier on her own, doing her own thing, so she wasn't able to cook for me like she was before. But then I learned myself. And through learning myself, it just completely just like took the shackles off of me. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You cook your own nice meals.
Yeah. So now I cook a lot of like West Indian type of foods because they have a really good vegetarian menu, like a lot of chickpeas and things of that nature.
There's a really good vegetarian Indian place around here that I go to sometimes.
I love Indian food.
Yeah, it's really good. I haven't gone in a month because I've been on this carnivore diet. But this place was fantastic. Real interesting, weird, vegetable dishes. Everything's vegetarian. It's I guess it's with them it's a religious thing. A lot of Indians are vegetarian.
Yeah, vegetarian. Yeah. And I like a lot of Indian food just because of that. And that whole food diet it just works for me. But like you said, like these supplements like this makes me like I feel like when I drink this like the spirulina and just eat a lot of greens. And even like the mushrooms, the cordyceps mushrooms and stuff like that, like I just have energy to just go and go and go.
That life cycle tincture, somebody gave me some of that recently.
Yeah.
It's very good.
I gotta have them send you some. I gotta have them send you some. They send they have like a really nice tincture set that they send out. I should have bring it, but it has reishi, it has turkey's tail, lion's mane. The cordyceps, and it even gives you, a schedule on when you should take it and when it's best for. But it's a really, really good mushrooms because, they infuse theirs with this is Kakadu Plum. It's a Kakadu Plum. You ever hear of that?
No, it's a funny name.
Yeah, I know. It's Kakadu Plum is from Australia, and it's like one of the most high in vitamin C fruits there is. Like it's way higher in vitamin C than oranges and everything else like that. And they
Kakadu Plum.
Yeah, Kakadu Plum.
Okay.
Yeah, Kakadu Plum.
That sounds like something that a little kid would
right.
That's a Kakadu plant.
Yeah.
Dad. What?
But it's a really, really good supplement, and I don't really like to recommend supplements too much, but that's one that I take and I'm like, man, I feel way better.
Do you eat a lot of beets?
I do eat. Beets are really good.
Beets are supposed to be really good for endurance.
Yeah, beets are really good. But it's crazy, like just eating greens like I've been eating greens. I just don't. I feel like I don't get tired like I used to. Like my body's just instantly recovering. Like
what was your old diet like? What was it like when you're training for a fight? What would typical meals be like?
It was pretty clean. But it was I would eat a lot of meat. And I'm O positive, so I'll eat like a lot of red meat. And I felt really good when I ate red meat. Like it felt as if like when I eat red meat, it almost felt like I can feel it like within like the next 20, 30 minutes. Like my body breaks it down really fast,
Yeah.
So I felt good eating it, but I didn't feel like I had the like the endurance. Like I didn't feel the endurance aspect like I do right now,
I see what you're saying.
So that's been like the best that I ever felt was when I fought Tito Ortiz. I was eating red meat, but I also was coupling that up with a lot of spinach. I was eating a lot of spinach. Like I would go and get a big bag of spinach. Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing. I'd get a big bag of spinach and I'll just put it in a blender and just grind it up and then throw like some apples in it to make it a little bit sweeter to change the taste so it wouldn't be so greenish like I'm eating grass.
Right.
And then I would just drink those all the time, but it just made me feel so strong.
Interesting. Now, did you used to work with a nutritionist at all?
I did. Yeah, I did. I work with
because when you were cutting weight, like how many fights did you have at 85?
Two fights at 85.
Was that too much of a struggle?
Yeah, it was too much of a struggle. Like I'm in a weird position because I'm not a very big person. I'm not big enough to be a light heavyweight, but I'm not small enough to be a middleweight either. Like and feel like I can, so I was like in that weird space. So when I cut down to 185, I felt like it felt drained. I just didn't have the movement and the pop, but then at 205 I kind of felt undersized, you know.
Back then, what did you walk around at?
Back then, I was walking around like 225, 230.
And what was different? Because it was from eating the meat, you think?
From eating the meat. From eating the meat, I would get
that alone has got to probably increase your endurance. Just the loss of that much body mass.
Yeah,
20 plus pounds that your body doesn't have to pump blood through.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. You know.
Yeah, so that just came off naturally when you stopped eating meat.
Yep, and another thing too, like I would, you know, this is another reason why, like, because when I wasn't fighting, that was the problem, because I would get into these bad eating habits because I would always know that when I had training camp, I can just cut the weight and just lose it like that. But after a while, that just becomes your habit. Anything you do over time, that becomes your habit. It becomes your lifestyle. And I was eating a lot of sugar, drinking a lot of booze and shit like that. So I was like, man, I need to make a change for my life, for the rest of my life, you know?
Right.
And that's why this whole lifestyle fits so much better to me, you know?
Do you think that would have changed your career had you eaten this way back when you were competing?
I think so. I think it would have, but at the same time, I don't know in which way. You know what I'm saying?
I feel like been too chill.
Yeah. I feel like
because you're so calm now.
Yeah, I feel like I was what I needed to be at the time I needed to be it. You know?
I see. Yeah.
And I feel like there are some aspects of my awareness, because that's what I would call it more than anything. I hate to say, oh, I'm woke now, because I hate that whole woke thing. But I feel
woke is great.
Yeah, but
real woke. But you know what it is? The problem is people could take it too far, and then really it's about getting other people to comply with your idea of wokeness,
woke
and then it becomes almost like a religion.
Yeah,
you just want people to comply with your ideas about how to speak and how to talk and how to live, and
exactly,
you just become a dictator, a little woke dictator. That's what it is. But the idea of like being woke, meaning aware, you're spiritually cognizant of your effect on people, the life that you live, and that's all beautiful. It's great. The problem is it gets abused because people want to pretend that they have virtue, so they adopt this woke pattern, and then they try to force it on other people, and then they're fucking annoying, and then it pisses other people off that may be like inclined to think that maybe it's good to be kinder, be good to be more open, and then they hear those fucks, and they're like, fuck these people, I'm going to vote for Trump again.
Yeah.
And that's what happens.
I hear that. I definitely hear that. I hear that, because that's what, that's how I would say it. Like, for me, it was more or less just awareness of myself. And I was aware of myself, but I didn't really have the awareness. Like, I didn't, like, it's almost to the point where I'm just more cognizant of every single choice that I make, you know? And just, and that's something I really didn't care about or really didn't think about before, you know? And just that awareness right there, it brings a whole new different understanding of life. But I was like that person when I first woke. I'm just like, oh man, why ain't this person woke? And I wanted to wake up everybody. And it was the most frustrating thing in the world. And that's why I was like, you know what? I won't do it, man.
Isn't that what always happens when people find something interesting? Like, that's what happens when people start doing CrossFit. It happens when people start doing jiu-jitsu. They just can't shut the fuck up about it. And it happens when people take on, a new spiritual philosophy.
Yeah.
They want everybody to understand how they're doing it and that you should do it this way too. When people believe in what they're doing, they want to share it, but they also want other people to do it too, because if I can convince you to live my way, then it validates the way I'm living.
Right.
Because that's so true. Rashad's woke too now. Why don't you be woke?
Right.
And then and then you start just trying to spread it.
But I think that, everybody has their own awakening, you know, and if some people may not have that in this life, they may never have that awakening. But
some people are burdened by their environment as well, right? There's too much stress and anxiety, and
where you can't even see it.
Sometimes you don't have space.
And that's why I even give a nod to the psychedelics in that respect. When if you don't have the ability to have that mental space, there is something that can have you have that, that insight that somebody who was doing all the meditation, because all you really need to do is feel it to understand why you need to do it.
Yes.
And that's why I'm lucky that I was able to feel it. So now it's nothing for me to meditate and go to all these, spiritual practices, because I know that it's something real. But beforehand, I was like, man, that shit is not real. Like, I don't believe that, man. Like,
Right,
oh yeah,
right.
you feeling energy, huh? Like,
Yeah.
I used to be one of those guys, but until I went through it, I'm just like, you don't have that understanding.
Well, it's hard to see the result. You kind of have to trust the process. It's hard to see the result before you've experienced it. You kind of have to trust the process, go through it. Then something for me, a big one is yoga. I'm a big believer in yoga, and not just for physical reasons, for mental reasons. It helps me tremendously. And when I don't do it, I'm good. Like, legitimately, I should do yoga twice a week, because I'm really only good for about 3 days after yoga class. Like, I need to just really balance out. If I was doing it 3 times a week, there's not a thing in the world that could fuck with me.
Yeah.
And mentally, I'd be like, I'm fine.
See,
Everything will be fine.
I've done the Bikram yoga, and that shit was just so hot. I really couldn't focus.
That's the key, though.
I know, but I wasn't where I am right now.
You should do it now.
So tell me, like when you go to Bikram, is that what you do?
Yeah. Well, my place is not affiliated with Bikram anymore.
Okay.
Because he's got arrested for some scumbaggery. He's actually been arrested. I don't think he can come to America. I think that's the thing. I think he's got to stay in hiding. The thing about it, that guru life, that's the problem. that is a problem. It really is a problem when any one person has that much influence over so many people, particularly a male having so much influence over females that worship him, especially if you're a scumbag. And there's a thing about this. He did not invent those postures, and he didn't even invent that sequence. He brought it to America, and he popularized doing it in very hot rooms. The benefits, though, forget him. Take him out of the equation, because there's so many people that practice it, and they've had incredible benefits from it. It's really unfortunate that it's connected to this very controversial individual, because then people associate Bikram yoga with this guy that's been, accused of multiple sexual assaults and rapes and all these different things. But you take that away from him as a human being, and the people that practice it, what they get from it. First of all, you know exactly what you're going to do every day. There's 26 postures and 2 breathing exercises. 1 breathing exercise in the beginning, 26 postures, 1 breathing exercise at the end. It's 90 minutes. It's 90 minutes at 105 degrees. And it's fucking brutal. And I did it right before I got here. I do it, I'd like to do it in the mornings, first thing in the morning. I do it before I've eaten anything. I go through a 90-minute yoga class. I really like doing it that way. And then at the end of the day, I have a couple different places that I do it at. I like to mix it up. But that hot yoga for me is the way to go, because first of all, I know the postures. They all serve a purpose in terms of helping my body, helping my balance, keeping my flexibility, strengthening my joints. There's so many really positive physical benefits from it. And then 2, the meditation aspect of it, because no matter what kind of bullshit I have going on in my life, if I just breathe and think about the exercise, and then, my brain starts racing and I'll forget what I'm doing and I'll start thinking about other shit, but I bring it back, breathe. Just breathe. You're not going anywhere for 90 minutes. You're locked in this room. Literally, the door's locked when the class starts. Oh, wow. So I am just breathing and going through these, and I know that I can get through it because I've done it 1,000 times before. Just breathe and get through it. And there's a cleansing of all your brain. There's there's residue of shitty thoughts bouncing around inside your brain, anxieties and fears and regrets and anger and frustration and all this shit that's in your head that just gets in the way of clear thinking. It gets in the way of being able to see things in an objective, beneficial way. And to be able to see things the way other people see them as well. Sometimes I have this issue, and I think a lot of people do, that I don't see how other people are seeing things. I see how I see things. Right. And then I go, well, okay, let me look at it from their way. Let me just abandon, no, well, they're fucking wrong. That's why. Abandon all that shit and try to look at it from other people's ways. I feel like what yoga does for me is it allows me to be free. It allows me to clean up all my preconceived notions and clean out all my misconceptions and just see things for how they are. And I always feel better. Always.
See, I got to try that.
Oh, it's the best. Especially now that you're on this vegan diet. I'm telling you, you're on that path anyway. The yoga is It's just so good for straightening your fucking head out, man.
I always wanted to try the Kundalini yoga.
That's the shit that's supposed to make you trip. Yeah. I've had a bunch of friends do it. They say, my friend Denny, he's done it and had like and he's done DMT too. He's like, dude, it's the same goddamn thing.
That's what
you
he
have
said,
full-blown visions. You have full-blown psychedelic visions. Yeah.
See, that's the thing. Like when I do like the DMT, I don't have it's weird. I don't have like those
visions.
Okay,
no, that's because you're doing 5-methoxy dimethyltryptamine. The visions come from NN dimethyltryptamine.
Yeah.
Totally different thing. I've done both.
I've done that before.
You've done NN?
Yeah,
and you have no visions?
No, I have visions. It's kind of like it's just like silly things though. Sometimes I've seen like one time I did it. I've seen like this half, like it was like I awake and I'm in a place and I'm just with these 3 massive beings like tall as a building, and they were like half human and they were half snake, and like I had a snake from the waist down and they were human from the waist up, but had like a snake face.
Whoa.
Yeah, and that was one of the visions that I had.
What do you think that represented?
I don't know, but it was weird because during that experience it was like they were all like all 3 of them were staring at me and they were looking down, and then one of them reached for me, and then I started going up, and then I started going around their body, and then I went around the body, and then as I was going around the body, every once in a while I would see the face of it, and it would like open up like a cobra, and then it would close, but it wasn't scary, it wasn't terrifying, and I went all the way up the body, and it was like I was able to see from another angle, like me up in the body, and then it like opened me up like a flower or something like that. It was weird, and then my trip went like super fast.
So you definitely have had visions.
Yeah, I just can't quite make out like what's it
supposed to be.
Yeah, what's it supposed to be?
I had a bunch of jokers giving me the finger the last time. A bunch of jesters, like court jesters.
I never seen nothing like that, man.
It was ridiculous. They
were
all like, fuck you, all like circling me, like infinite numbers of.
Gosh.
Basically, the feeling that I got was like, oh, I take myself too seriously. And these jesters were just going, fuck you. Like, you don't like that. You don't like when someone goes, fuck you.
No,
so they were going, fuck you. And there was like, but they weren't saying the words, but they were definitely giving me the finger. But there was like an infinite number of jesters surrounding me going, like giving me like this vibrating finger. And I was like, oh, but it was clear what they were saying. Like, hey, bitch, you take yourself too seriously. And then I was like, oh, you're right. And once I would say, you're right, they're like nodding at me like, mm-hmm.
Oh.
Okay.
See, that's what I like. I like to be able to work. Like, that's work.
Yeah.
That's work right there. Like, you went and you worked through something, you know?
Yes. I think when you work too hard at something and you're trying to achieve something, like, oftentimes you think very highly of yourself. Like, that's what you like. I should, my Netflix special is gonna be the shit. This is gonna be the best one I've ever done. I'm gonna fucking show everybody how good this is. And they were like, fuck you. And I was like, oh, okay, all right, yeah, you're right. I was like, you're right. This is silly. That's like I'm just alive for a certain amount of time, and I shouldn't think that way. I mean, there's part of you that gets trapped in thinking that way because you're trying to do something, but you don't have to think that way to do the thing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the thing, like those visions and being able to, like, when I did ayahuasca, I didn't have any visions, man. I didn't have anything. Like, I got into a pretty good space, but I wasn't, like, I didn't have like the typical teaching lessons everybody else has when they do something like that.
That seems like you probably didn't get a strong enough dose.
No, I did. I did 2 large cups.
The thing is, with that, and I'm speaking just from people talking to me about it because I've only done the pure DMT. I haven't done the ayahuasca.
Oh, you haven't done the ayahuasca.
People say that a lot of these people that are making it, either they're not making it correctly or they're making a light dose because they're worried about gringos going crazy and and they don't want to be responsible for that shit. So I know people that have gone and they've had these experiences where they've done it with someone in America or someone who's done through a more commercial sort of organization, and it wasn't really that strong or profound. And then they went and did it with someone who was real, someone who's making some fucking super high grade, 97 octane shit. And
that's
they were like, oh, fuck.
That's what I need. Because I feel like after that, I felt like damn, I must be broke, man. I'm I must be broken. Like I can't even feel the damn ayahuasca. But it brought, like, it didn't give me the experience I wanted, but it gave me the experience that I needed. And that's something that I got after I was like over the disappointment of it. I was like, you know what, I didn't get what I wanted, but I definitely got what I needed, because whenever you sit in a circle and stuff like that, it's always an amazing cathartic thing where you just kind of just like shed and just go through those emotions. Just watching other people just be so raw with their emotions and just kind of feeling that, just through symbiosis, you kind of like start to feel like the work come through you. That's how I felt anyways.
Now, are you working a lot with fighters now? Are you working with young fighters? Are you doing it in any official capacity, or are you just doing it because you're at the gym?
I just do it. I just train because I'm at the gym, but I like to train with the guys when I'm in there because I can go at a good pace, and I don't mind if they hit me up a little bit, and I will give them a look that some of the training partners, won't give them. So yeah, I enjoy that aspect of it, but I haven't been like, I'm gonna come in here. I haven't dedicated myself to someone's full camp.
One of the reasons why I say this is because a lot of people that I talk to that have trained with you and work with you, one of the things they really like about you is your guidance. Is that you're a guy that they could sit down and talk to about things, and you have a very learned and wise perspective. And that could be, especially with, you consider your successful career, that could be like very beneficial for young fighters coming up. And I just wanted to know, like, had you ever thought about becoming a trainer?
Yeah, I think about it all the time, and I work with some fighters now. Like I have this team out in Michigan, is Team Murcielago, that my old coach Joaquin Rodriguez. He's like the head guy there, but him and I work together, and we try to bring some of the fighters out and try to get them to like the bigger shows and stuff like that. But those fighters, I work with a lot. My godson is one of those fighters there, Devin Smith. And I work with him and trying to get him to just, not only fight at a certain level, but mentally bring himself to a certain level. And he's always hated because he's always like, man, you always try to be like Yoda, try to give me a Yoda lesson. I'm like, no, I'm not trying to be Yoda. I'm just trying to. I just want to tell you,
Help you, I can.
Yeah, because one time he hit me up. He was like, oh man, I'm ready to come down. I'm ready to train. I'm like, okay, you ready to come and train? I'm like, all right. So have you been training? And he's like, no. And I'm like, And I'm like, so what makes you think it's going to be different if you come and train with me? I mean, you still have to train. And he's like, I better get to the gym, huh?
That's one of the weirdest conversations I've ever had with people that go, you know what, man, if I train, I think I'd be a fucking world champion. I'm like, okay, I don't even know where to start with that.
Right.
I don't even know what to say there. Yeah, okay. If I meditated, I think I could see through walls. I'm not going to meditate, though. Like, what does that mean?
I know.
People have weird ways of looking at themselves, where they just decide they're special without putting in any work. Like they decide there's something about them that makes them different.
Yeah.
And they want that to be the case, but they don't want to work towards it. It's a weird trap that you see in young people where they just convince themselves there's something significant about them. And that's a real problem with young guys that get into fighting that have a delusional perspective, and they'll accept fights they shouldn't accept.
Yeah.
So they're like, I'll fight that motherfucker. That guy has 30 fights. You have one. Are you crazy?
But I think that I see that more with the kids and this next generation, just because we're such a voyeuristic community. I mean, society now. And I think now people just see somebody like, oh yeah, I can do that, but not really realizing, like you said, all the guts that go into what make them good at what they do.
Well, there's lessons that are out there. If you just pay attention, look, here's a great lesson. Conor McGregor versus Floyd Mayweather. One guy has 0 pro boxing matches. One guy's the greatest of all time.
Yeah.
And somehow or another, they sold us on this thing, and we all paid money, me included, and we watched this fight. That was exactly how any expert would tell you it's going to go down. Floyd's going to fuck him up. There's another one, maybe even more egregious one, because at least Conor McGregor was a world champion, combat sports athlete, and a wicked fighter.
Right.
There was a lion fight where they had Lurdzilla. Do you know who Lurdzilla is?
No, I don't know who it is.
Woo! Ooh, he's a motherfucker. This Thai dude, he's a motherfucker. And he fought this dude with 0 pro Muay Thai fights. I think Lurdzilla has 300 Muay Thai fights.
My God.
And he fought this dude and played with him and then head kicked him into another dimension. But he head kicked him off the front leg, just whap! And the dude folded. It's a crazy
how did the fight
KO.
even get set up like that?
I don't know. I think maybe he had another opponent, and that opponent got injured and dropped out. And then this MMA fighter decided to try his hand at Muay Thai, so he jumped in there in a Muay Thai fight against arguably one of the greatest Muay Thai fighters alive. You should watch Lurdzilla's highlight reel. First of all, he's super elusive. He's an unusually elusive fighter. But he hit this motherfucker with a left high kick just off the front leg, just whipped it up off the front leg and caught him on the chin, folded him. And I was like, whoever said yes to that fight, whatever commission allowed that fight to take place, you guys should have to go to trial.
Oh, yeah.
Like someone should sit down with you and go, how the fuck did you allow this to take place?
That sounds crazy as hell.
0 pro fights versus 300. I mean, maybe he didn't have 300. Maybe he had 264 or some crazy shit like that. But he's Lurdzilla. I mean, Lurdzilla is a famous Muay Thai fighter. Oh, did you find it? Yeah, here it is. Oh, that's the dude after he got crumpled. But you go before that. Go before that so you could watch. I mean, Lurdzilla is just fucking him up from the beginning. And credit to the dude for thinking he could take the fight and stepping up. But Lurdzilla basically just battered this fucking guy.
You can tell the look on his face. He's just playing with him.
Yes. Well, Lurdzilla is brilliant, man. Look at that.
Oh, my gosh.
Look at that. And that was one knockdown.
He got up after that?
Yeah, he knocked him out after that. He knocked him out. Watch his front leg. Teep, watch it. Smack.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, folds him. That's a complete, total mismatch. Like, if that dude was doing that in sparring to that guy, everyone would be mad at him. Everybody would be like, hey, man, this guy's not on your level. Don't fuck him up.
Yeah.
Like, take it light on him. Be nice. But look at this. Teep, smack.
Oh, my God.
Hands down, not worried about shit, playing with him. And the whole fight's like that. And Lurdzilla's a beast, man. He's fun to watch. He's
that
really
damn kick was lightning fast.
Lightning fast.
Wow.
Off the teep.
Off the
swap,
teep.
and then no wind up, no switch. Just cracks him in the face with it.
Dude, that's
he's
crazy.
Brilliant. That guy's brilliant. But that's a crazy mismatch. So a guy could say, I'll fucking fight this guy. Someone needs to grab you and go, hey, man, no.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. You think you can hit the bag. You think you can hit hard. You think you can do all these things. You're about to get in there with a master, a guy who has mastered this one particularly brutal combat sport. Don't do that.
It's nothing worse than when you're in a match when you feel that damn outmatched by somebody. I was doing jiu-jitsu and I think I was going with a Hadra Gracie. And I always felt like I was doing pretty. I was like, I feel like I'm pretty all right. And then when I went with him, he was just on me and it was just like toying with me. You know what I'm saying? Like I felt like I couldn't make a right move and I'm just like, man, this sucks. This is the worst. It's the worst. And then he got on top of me. And normally if I get on somebody, like I can hold them down pretty well, but it was just a different level. And I'm just like, wow.
Those old school guys like Hadra Gracie, Salo Hubera, Shanji Hibero, those guys have that pressure top game. There's something about that old school jiu-jitsu pressure game, you know, but Salo's a master at that. You know, Shanji's a master at that. Rafael Lovato's a master at that. That smashing pressure game. But Hadra is not just a master at that. He's also like his physical attributes. He's so long and tall.
Long. Yeah, that longness, and he's
smush.
He's got like, you know, that long leverage, that tall strength.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, that tall
kind of strength.
It's a different kind of strength than somebody long and tall and strong. Oh my gosh.
Well, that's a big advantage John has.
Yes.
You see John use that on people.
Yeah.
That long strength is the best grappling strength. It's like those guys that have that. I feel like that body, that John Jones body, is a perfect body for MMA. Because he's strong. He's tall. He's strong with it. He's tall and thin, but he's also strong as fuck. Like he's muscled enough, but he also has that extra length.
Yeah, and his legs are perfect too. They're skinny. They can go down and get really skinny, so they're really fast too.
Yeah.
I'm just watching him throw kicks. I'm like, man, he's throwing those legs like it's effortless, you know?
His calves are ridiculous. They don't even make sense. Like, how are those on your body? Right? How are those on your body? You look at his shoulders. His shoulders are massive.
Then he got
and then they go down those little calves. Like, what's going on here?
And he kicks the hell out of you with those little skinny legs, too.
It's crazy. And there hasn't been many people that have been able to exploit the fact those calves are so small. They haven't really been able to.
Nah.
You would think that, like, with this trend in calf kicks, Thiago Santos tried it. He hit him with some good ones for sure, but John figures it out eventually, and then he just starts checking them. He checked most of them against Dominic. Most of those low calf kicks he checked.
He checked them.
He just saw them coming.
Well, how do you even check a lower leg kick? Because that
turned out. He just made it so that he was going shin to shin. They went shin to shin a lot.
Yeah, I've seen that.
It's real hard to check, though. And
it's really hard to check.
It's also real hard to just take. You could take those thigh kicks if you're conditioned a little bit.
And just like you said, like he had to make a choice to take it how he wanted it, but he's still taking the shot.
Right, he's still going shin to shin.
Yeah, he's still going shin to shin,
but they're both feeling it. That's the difference. They're both feeling it.
When you get the meaty part of that bone part, that's when you hit that sciatic nerve, and that's when you shut down like Chandler did. He had no choice. Yep. His leg was like, nope, not today.
Cejudo too in the second fight with Mighty Mouse, his leg shut down. Yeah, your nerve just shuts off and your foot doesn't work. It's numb. It's just
numb.
dangling.
You can't feel it. Yeah.
Try to stand on it, shit just collapses. The Chandler fight, they were trying to tell him his leg's broken, and he's like, I'm fucking fine. Leave me alone. You know, and I think that fight should not have been stopped. I think if you got to but the referee should know and the doctor should know this is what happens if you just give it a few minutes to recover.
It'll come back.
If he can survive the onslaught during that time, his leg will come back. And I think in Chandler it probably would have. And Cejudo, it did. Cejudo figured out how to just sort of chuck and jive with Mighty Mouse. And I don't think Mighty Mouse knew the extent that his leg was numb. But it recovered.
When you get hit like that, though, for a second, you're like, this motherfucker's cheating. Like, you feel like... you feel it for a second. You feel like this motherfucker is cheating because it hurts so bad. Like, and it's very rare to have something that hurts you immediately in MMA. Like, there's not many strikes that can hurt you immediately.
Right.
That's one of them that hurts you.
That nerve pain.
Yeah, you feel it immediately.
Isn't it weird that went on forever until Benson Henderson started doing it to people?
Yeah.
He was the first in MMA, in my opinion, at a high level to start chopping at those lower legs. Real low, like right above the ankle. He'd fuck people up with that.
He would kill people with those lower legs.
But now that is the move. Everybody's doing it now.
It's a staple. It's funny how MMA does it, though. It goes to all these cycles now.
Yeah.
And I think now people are really starting to find a home for those oblique kicks that John throws, you know?
Yes.
The Winkle John Kemp.
They're weird though because if you graze off, it leaves you in a weird place. Because you're kind of your foot's turned outward and you can get hit with punches. You're in a weird punching range where you're not in a good stance to fire back.
Right.
Because your foot is sort of pronated outside.
Yeah, pronated outside.
It's a great kick though. You know who fucking throws the shit out of that? Lorenz Larkin.
Oh yeah.
He throws that shit to the body. When he fought Neil Magny, he threw that oblique kick to the body, and I was like, "Oh my goodness!"
That motherfucking kick, though.
He's
good. He can kick. When I'm watching him kick, I'm just like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, he's so fast too.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, I was really interested to see how he was going to do over in Bellator. You know, but then he had that crazy war with Paul Daly. You can't get in a war with Paul Daly.
No,
that dude's left hand is one of the best weapons in the sport. Period.
He got that one hitter. He got that heat. He has.
That left hand's ridiculous.
It's crazy, right? It's crazy. It's stupid.
Power.
It's stupid just to have that kind of power in his hands.
There's certain guys that just have that, like Rumble.
Oh my god,
Rumble, and now he's going to come back as a heavyweight. He said,
"Yeah, and he's looking good. He's in training. He's in training now." And
dude, Rumble versus Dominic Reyes. How about that? How about that?
That would be
How
crazy.
about that? Rumble scares the fuck out of everybody. Like you might beat him, but you also might get knocked into another dimension.
Because he hits like when I mean he's been my training partner for the longest time, and he knows like I'm like Rumble, you know, don't hurt me. Don't be going crazy, man. I ain't go crazy, you know, I ain't go crazy, and we train smart, but. I mean, there's a couple of times he hit me. I'm like, man, I'm not your friend anymore. Don't fucking talk to me. Don't you fucking talk to me. I told you don't hit me like that.
Dude, when he knocked out Glover with one punch, I was like, holy shit.
Oh
you do that to Glover Teixeira?
I know.
That's crazy.
And the thing about his punches is like you can't really gauge how like you don't know which one is going to be that shot because it kind of they come at.
He likes to moves his hands around a lot too while he's throwing punches.
Yeah, so you don't know which one's going to be the one to touch you.
Yeah, and they come from all angles. Here he is in shape now. He's been training with Hooft. He looks good. He looks gigantic. It's so hard to believe that guy was ever 170. I am so baffled by how the fuck he made that weight.
So this is over at the new gym Stanford. Look at him, man.
So what is the new gym called? It's called
Stanford. The team is called Stanford MMA now.
Oh, okay. And who's running that?
It's the same people. It's Henry Hoof.
Sanford.
Yeah, Sanford.
No T. Sanford MMA.
Sanford.
Yeah. And so it's all the Black Zillion guys?
Yep, all the Black Zillion guys.
Look at that. Rory and Robbie Lawler training together there now.
Yeah, Rory's been there getting some work in the last couple of weeks.
How long has this gym been around for?
Man, this is H Kickboxing. This is H
okay.
Kickboxing.
It just has a different name.
Yeah, just different name. So we just now moved into that gym on a more consistent basis.
It looks beautiful.
Yeah, I mean they spent I think like a couple million on it. They spent some money on that gym.
And this is in the same place as where the Black Zillions was, the same area?
Same area, yeah. So we had the Black Zillion gym, and then we went to a gym that was at this like amusement park for kids. It was like it's called Extreme Action Park, and that's where we had a section that we had there, and then they also added this gym too. So now they're gonna keep that gym at Extreme Action Park, but also keep this one.
South Florida, man, what a hotbed for martial arts, right?
It really is, man.
So much jiu-jitsu down there.
Oh man, you can. You got Cyborg right down the street, and Cyborg is amazing, and Mario Sperry not too far down in Miami.
What happened with Mario? Because Mario was the head coach for a while of the Black Zillions, right? And he was inspirational as fuck.
Oh, Mario
he would
was
give
the
those
best,
speeches,
man.
And I was like, ooh, I get goosebumps.
Yeah, Mario was the best. I just think that him and Glenn didn't work out when it came time to it, and all the work and chemistry together, because that was the hardest thing, because having all those different coaches and trying to not only have them get along with the fighters, but then have them get along with each other, and not try to fight for that, who's the main coach and who's the main guy, and that's coaches sometimes have bigger egos than the fighters,
right? And
sometimes it's more deadly because they're not accomplished, and a lot of times they're coaching because they don't feel that accomplishment, so that coaching becomes that thing that they want to be validated for.
Right.
And but
it's so hard to find that balance, and the ones who find it, they're so cherished. The guys like Mark Henry, the guys like Trevor Whitman, I mean those Faraz Zahabi, Duke Rufus, those coaches that are like legit coaches that everybody loves, man. They're so cherished.
They are, man.
They're so valuable because also for a fighter, like Trevor Whitman's holding pads for you, like, holy fuck, I'm training with Trevor motherfucking Whitman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's something to that. If you go to Montreal and you're in Faraz Zahabi's gym, you're like, holy shit, that is Faraz Zahabi talking to me.
Absolutely,
like,
man.
There's some power to that.
There's a power, and you start to believe it. You start to believe anything they say. And
if he tells you you're good, outstanding, excellent. You hear Faraz, you're like, oh shit, Faraz just said that. Yeah.
It's crazy, man, to see like where these like Faraz. I remember when he wasn't even a coach; he was just a fighter. Like when I first started going to Montreal, he wasn't the coach yet. He was
really
he was still fighting. Yeah.
Wow.
He was still fighting.
He's such a good coach.
He is phenomenal.
But he's such a genius person when you talk to him. His perspective on things. He's always recommending books and shit. He's always recommending. Listen to this guy, because this guy has he told me about a competitive shooter. What is that guy's name? Lammy, the guy who wrote the Winning Mindset. Anyway, he wrote Lammy. I wrote it down somewhere. I have the book at home that I've been reading lately. Where the fuck is it? God damn it. I can't remember. But anyway, point is he's always recommending me shit. He's always got something interesting that he's been paying attention to that he can relate to MMA and to fighting, and he's very, very keenly aware of the mental battles that are going on and how much visualization is important and meditating.
Lammy Bassam, yeah.
The guy was a competitive target shooter, and he spent more time practicing in his head than he did practicing.
Wow.
More time visualizing.
That works. That really does work.
It does something.
Because when I was hurt for the Rampage fight, in training camp, I would visualize a lot.
How would you do it?
I would just sit there and I would just kind of like, I would go through moves in my mind, and I'll go through techniques, and I would just kind of go over and over again the techniques in my mind. I will also do scenarios where I fight in almost every single situation. Like I find myself, losing and then finding a way to come back after I've been rocked, and just trying to find myself just mentally working through it, a lot through it. Almost every single fight, like I'll go round by round.
Really?
Yeah, I'll go round by round, and I'll just like, okay, I'll set up the scenario. Okay, I'll come out and I catch him with a punch, and then I'm just imagining what happens after that, and then I put myself in adversity every single time I can, as much as I can. So then that way I find myself always, I get myself out of adversity. Sometimes I just find myself just smoking them, but there's always these different mental games and me just doing something and executing and always just doing it right.
So it's almost like you were fighting without having to fight.
Yeah.
You were getting the experience of fighting in your head by just visualizing it.
Mm-hmm.
Would you set a certain amount of time that you would do it?
Nah, I would just go with the flow. I had my wrestling coach in college, Tom Minkle. He was always on. Like I get nervous. I don't know what to do with the nervousness. And he says, you're nervous because you're thinking too much about it. He said, just think about executing. Don't think about the outcome. Just think about executing your technique, and just only think about executing your technique and how it feels to complete the perfect execution of the technique. When you hit the pad and it hits that, and it sounds that, they hear that pop, how does that feel? Become attached to how you feel when you execute something. And then that's what you start to base your fight off of, how you feel when you execute versus all the things that can happen if something goes wrong.
Yeah, it's really interesting to see the different strategies that people employ in order to like focus the mind. So many different fighters have different ways of doing it. Some fighters like to meditate. Some fighters like to shadow box their way through scenarios, almost like they're thinking about how the fight's going to go down while they're like slow motion doing things.
Yeah, I would get in the mirror sometimes. I'll yell in the mirror. I'll like yell out the fear, like come on, like I would just I would get into it, because a lot of times I would get so nervous that I would be like, oh my God, I just don't want to freeze out there. I just don't want to freeze, So I would like, that's part of the reason why I started twisting my nipples. Like I go out there and I'll twist my nipples before the fight. And that was just to kind of do something stupid and silly.
Right.
But then it would allow me to just kind of relax. Because I'm like, well, I'm not going to embarrass myself any worse than that.
That's funny. I remember always wanting to ask you about that. Like, why do you guys do that?
I would just do it just like, I'm not going to embarrass myself worse than that. So
Did George used to do that shit too?
George would do it. Yeah, George would do it because, he I don't know. I think he didn't like the way his nipples looked when he first came out the shirt. I'm being honest. I think
that's a funny
they
thing.
They look
to
a little too
about.
puffy or something. He didn't like
funny,
the way they
man.
look, but
that's funny.
Some people don't like puffy nipples, man.
So you pull on them and yank on them and shit.
Yeah, man.
Nipples on guys are weird things anyway.
I know. It's puffy. It looks even worse.
Yeah. Well, some dudes have like big areolas.
Yeah,
and they're real embarrassed. They don't want to take their shirt off.
They don't want to take your shirt off with a big areola.
With a girl, it doesn't matter at all. But a guy with a big areola is like, whoa, what's happening here,
weird.
man? What's going on there?
The titty just hanging out like that.
Weird.
It's pornographic. Yeah. It's pornographic. That's what it is.
That for dudes when they get fat, that's a bummer, man. When they develop man tits.
Oh my gosh, I know. And
that's a bummer.
And when they don't care, they can slap you with them and stuff like that too.
No.
That's terrible. That's terrible. That's terrible. Oh my gosh, I'm just glad I didn't have nothing like that. I did get big to have some booby weight, but not that dang big.
What do you do most of the time now? Like, what is your days? What do you occupy your days with?
I know
you're doing a lot of analyst work.
Yeah, so I still do. I still do the analyst work, but I also, try to do as much as I can with Onyx, and I still do my training and things like that. But, I also work with CBS a little bit. Doing analyst stuff for them, but I'm still in that space, just trying to figure out that next thing that I align with, and that's why I'm so excited to work with Unlimited Sciences, and doing something that I'm passionate about, because I'm passionate about psychedelics, and I'm passionate, that's what I really like that, and I think that can help people, You know, now I'm to the point where I just want to help people. You know, that's where I'm at in my life. I feel as if like, you know, I lived a lot of my life for myself at this point, you know, and I've accomplished some great things, but now I'm to the point where I just want to be able to help other people achieve what they want to in life and just be a part of that. You know, that's what really resonates in me more than anything right now.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
I mean, it's real, man.
I know it's real. That's why it's beautiful. I'm glad we talked, man, because I had a feeling it was going to go like this.
Yeah, I'm too, man. I had a good time, man. It's definitely something. You know, I've watched you for a long time on your show, and honestly speaking, you know, when I first started to, you know, awaken and wanted to understand a lot about these entheogens, you know, I would listen to Joe Rogan and I would listen to your podcast, and just, you know, the amount of information you shared, and, you know, the people, the guests that you had on, you know, you always have a great people who speak with some knowledge that I can't even comprehend sometimes, you know, and that's what it's about. You know, you feel like when I watch this show, it's such a good tool to learn, you know, and thank you for that.
My pleasure, brother. And thank you for being here, man. I really enjoyed it. That was awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, if people want to get a hold of you, social media, give us your social media, your Instagram, Twitter.
Yeah, you can check me out at Sugar Rashad Evans at Instagram. And if anybody wants to be involved in that study, it's unlimitedsciences.org. And, you know, they can go in there, sign up, and everything will be, you know, it's HIPAA, so that HIPAA protected, so that no one's information will get out. And, you know, after they send the email, the information will be destroyed. Okay. So that's about
Beautiful.
it. Beautiful.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate you being here, man.
You,
it was
man.
awesome. Rashad Evans, ladies and gentlemen. Bye.